Donna. Hello. All right.
Hello.
How are you, first of all?
I
You look
am
well.
great.
You
How are
look
you?
good. You look happy.
Oh,
Brilliant. I
how
just,
are you?
I'm good. I'm a little sleepy and tired. I don't know why. I slept all the way till like 10 o'clock, but I'm still tired and sleepy. So I don't know. Sometimes it's just, the body does that, and then it's like, it's anticipating something coming. It's in there doing its stuff, and you kind of dealing with it and healing. So I've always noticed that if you don't sleep extra, then you end up getting flu, or something happens. So it's very good to pay attention to it. I'm just making food, yeah, while we chat. Um, Donna, what were you thinking specifically in regard to the anomalies?
Well, I
I mean, how do
would
you
like,
see them, first of all?
it feels like the anomalies are the universe's way of communicating. Like our higher self. I know we are all the universe. I have a hard time on days where it seems like every single thought that I have is playing out in conversations with people. It almost feels as though my world isn't real. How
Ha.
can that happen so much? And I start to feel like a narcissist, and I start to feel like you're just like thinking way too much about yourself, which
Interesting.
it's, yeah,
Can you
like,
can, can you give an example of what you mean? Like of the
sure,
thoughts?
sure. Okay, so I wrote it all down just so that I can see the themes. And then what I was hoping I could get assistance is how to process them. So it's not, I need a perspective shift so that it doesn't feel like, what am I missing, or a negative aspect, that I can see it as magical like you do. I really would like to embrace that and feel it like you do. It gives me a sense inside, and I'm not sure how to get there. I don't know the process. I don't know exactly what they're meaning. So for example, I've been doing thinking about a lot of different areas of my life, like I shared with you: work, and then relationships, and the kids, and a dog, and the house, and like we've talked about, at one point you express sometimes those material things that you're thinking about, like a house or a dog,
Uh-huh.
they may materialize in somebody else's life to the exact detail, because that may get you sidetracked or slow you down on your spiritual path. And that makes sense. What happened today
Yeah,
was,
or you just may have conflicting intent. It's not so much that it is a something. It's just when stuff doesn't manifest exactly, it's maybe that we have multiple intents, and when you kind of mush them all together, that's what happens. You see what I mean? Like if you have an
I
intent
trying
to,
to,
yeah, like your intent may be when you want something, like say the pet, but then you have another intent to be like no distractions from your spiritual quest, and then you see the intent mechanism, as it were, kind of mushes them together, and then you get this average result, which can be a bit of a mess.
that's exactly what I've been thinking. And so like it comes into situations where the people, like this dog, I started this conversation with the woman in May, and then she comes back in and says, I'm now ready to move forward. Are you? And then I'm like, well, if I get a new dog, and I even thought that exact thing, you know, am I going to be able to meditate? Am I going to be able to do these, you know, Zoom
Right,
meetings?
right,
And
right.
I already made a decision once not to get involved in certain things because for me, my choice was no, I didn't want to shift my energy and my focus from the spiritual quest versus these other things. So, but I also am realizing that it doesn't have to be so one or the other. And
Correct,
I'm
correct.
recognizing and learning about myself that I have a tendency to see things in black and white. So I'm trying to be
Yeah,
aware of that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, there's great variation involved, and lots of options in things. So it's never either or, really. So
So like
there's no
today,
reason why a dog can't be a spiritual acquisition.
right? Why can't I look at it like that? I just don't see
Well,
those things until
I
I
would
talk
say
to like
just
people like
pause one
you.
second right there. You asked a question. Actually, answer your own question. When we ask questions like that, I find it exceptionally useful and valuable to actually stop and answer those questions we ask ourselves. So, what was your question?
Why can't I see it that way?
Yeah, exactly. Well, why
It
can't you?
doesn't fit my mind. I don't have that thought. But
Why
then
not?
somebody else will say it, and I'll step back and be like, yeah, that feels right. Why can't it be that?
All right. So, but more specifically, the question was, why can't it be both ways, right?
Right.
And answer that question.
I don't know the answer to that question. I feel like it can be, but it can be. I
There you
just
go. Well,
have a
end of
limiting
story.
belief.
It can be.
What?
Okay. That's it. Is there any reason it can't be?
It can.
Exactly. So maybe that's the issue. Sometimes these things are so simple that they seem too simple, and then we kind of like, no, it can't. That can't be the answer because that's too simple. And then we look for complication when it's actually just ridiculously simple. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah.
I see that a lot actually, where we struggle to accept the simplicity because it's too simple. Nah, it can't be that simple, and we don't trust our own selves. So, I'm missing something. This is too simple.
Well, the things that happened today were, it started with a conversation that was a parallel conversation about somebody in my life was talking about their children and they were going through depression and took anti-anxiety, and then it led to a conversation about incest and trauma, and the details that they were providing were the exact details of my life, and they know
Wow.
that story. So it was interesting in that it came up, and then it was questions about, how did you handle that and stuff. And what I recognized and realized today is through that conversation with this person, again, it's like the past is not connected to me. It's like I'm looking at a story of somebody else's life, or I'm
Wow.
watching a movie, and I literally have to really, really think, like, how did I feel back then? And yeah, I handled that really bad, but the emotion isn't there because I really feel like everything that happens is for growth and learning.
Right.
And I realized that I used to feel bad and have tears about that situation. And so what happened today was, the good was that I recognized that I have totally shifted that. There was no regret, there was no tears. It happened. I learned from it. The people that were involved, hopefully, they're learning and growing too. So that was the good, but I just felt it was kind of unusual that that came up now and in the exact detail and with the same person. So that was one. Um, the conversations about depression, incest, life's a mess, therapy, marriage, conventional marriage, dating, all of that just continually, like I'll have a thought about something and then I'll talk to somebody and 20 minutes later they're repeating the same words. And that is kind of the theme today. There, everywhere I went, the conversations were about those topics.
Wow. All right. So let's just clarify somewhat on the anomaly. An anomaly is something that's improbable or impossible or otherwise doesn't make sense, doesn't fit, but that's outside the bounds of normality. And its purpose is to draw our attention to something. That's the point of anomalies, right?
Right.
So it's to draw our attention to something in some way. Maybe it's a hint, a suggestion, a clue, or learning, all sorts of different reasons, but essentially it's to draw our attention. Furthermore, the anomalies, there are two important things to understand with anomalies. One, they are symbolic, but it's the symbolic is personal to us. That's very important because a lot of people try and interpret things according to like general. They go on the internet and look up what stuff means. No, it's what it means to you
Right. I
personally.
remember you saying that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So anomalies are very personal. Then they are personal to the moment, to the time that they happen. All right. Like say you've been having this repetition today of these topics, right?
Right.
That's the anomaly, which is it's beyond the statistical norm. It's very improbable that in one day you're going to be having the exact same topics come up in different situations, right?
Yeah, my exact same thoughts.
Okay,
And other people are
right,
saying them.
right. So obviously your attention is being drawn to this in some way. Yes.
Yes.
All right. So what's been going on in you today or yesterday? You know what I mean? What's like been sort of on your heart, in your mind, on your soul? Like what's been pressing on you a little bit, or what you're trying to figure out? Either way.
Well, part of what I've been trying to figure out is, do I have intent, like intentional thoughts of what I want my life to look like in the bigger picture of things? And how do I connect what I want to what the universal plan is for me? Or do I just show up every day and really try to tap into my higher guidance and follow that day?
Those are all good questions. Write them down, and then we'll answer them one by one.
Okay.
And we'll look at the anomaly to see how the anomaly answered that. Or
I think part of
connected
the
to
other
it.
thing that is a little bit like I need to step back is I've been like driven for quite a long time, driven to understand and gain knowledge about spiritual awakening, about my spiritual path, about how to be connected to my higher self consistently. And in that learning, you go to the internet, you go to books, you go, like I've talked about. When I don't do that, I feel as though I'm not doing my part in the plan for some reason. But I think what it does is it gets me a little confused because there's so much variety out there.
Yeah.
This person says, write your goals down, be driven, do this, do that. Another person's like, don't focus on what you don't have because you bring more of it, law of attraction.
Right.
So I'm trying to find a source of myself, what resonates with me, what I feel like, that is
very good
to me. And I'm struggling in doing that. And I think it's kind of messing up
right
how I look at my job and how I'm looking at this dog and how I'm looking at my relationship.
So you're looking for a methodology, essentially a methodology of living which makes sense to you, Donna, personally, right?
Right.
All right. Now let's look at the anomaly. In this case, it's a repetition of past trauma coming up, if I'm understanding correctly. Yeah?
That was one, yes. And the past trauma involved depression, anti-anxiety drugs, incest, and that all was a part of my old life.
Okay. Okay. A quick note on incest. You know, a lot of people experience it. Well, not a lot, but it gets experienced. And there's a big stress about it, and over stress. Incest is inappropriate sex, yes, because you don't want it. That's the part that's the issue. So it's kind of like, sexual assault. But the fact that it is with a family member, it's not the end of the world. Why? Because it's only a problem if breeding is involved. Other than that, it's just sex. The body doesn't care who you have sex with if you're not having kids. So it's not a great big sin to have sex with a family member. It's only a problem, and it's become a sin because of breeding. It has breeding problems. But other than that, it's not an issue. So I just want to throw that out there. It's just something to make peace with that. The nature, it doesn't care if you have sex with your family members, as long as you don't breed. That's it.
That's a pretty unconventional,
It is,
thing.
but it's just ordinary logic. I mean, yes, people put a taboo on things because it has serious consequences. But still, when you really think of it, think it through, it's like, your body don't care. Nature doesn't care. Also, nature will breed via incest when there are no other options. So, I'm just saying nothing is so cut and dried, in other words, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm using it as a mechanism for perspective shifting to say, hey, there are other perspectives, other insights, other understandings of things that completely jump the shark, as it were. Yeah?
Well, it's like the whole thing about dating. There's like sort of this part of me that is, what if we're just energy? This is what I've been asking lately. If we're just energy, and you choose who you share that energy with, you also choose who you engage in sexual energy
Yes.
with. So
Right.
if we're just energy, it's not, when you're having an exchange of sexual energy, that's not love like everybody says. To me,
No.
it feels like it's
Correct.
more of when you're connected to your higher self and that other person has that
Right.
same connection, and you come together and you mutually agree you're going to share sexual energy, that's amazing. And for
Yes.
me, I have found, for me, what feels right is to have that be within one person. I've not found a place that resonates with me at this moment in time, that it's just an exchange of energy. And if I have a connection with somebody, I can exchange that sexual energy with them. And that's just like eating or.
Gotcha. It's more profound
But
for you. Sex is more profound for you, in other words.
yeah, I guess.
Right.
And I feel like maybe it is that. Maybe it is just an exchange of energy, just like going to play basketball or eating dinner.
Well, again,
Whatever
look,
you're
look,
doing
look
with
at how you're
somebody.
thinking of it. Again, you're kind of jumping into that either or thing. Why can't it be both, or some variation? Sometimes it's only that. Sometimes it's only a spiritual thing, and an emotional thing, and sometimes it's a combination. It's not either or. It can be a combination, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's with most things. Most things are like that. They can be one extreme or the other extreme, or some combination in between, or something that
Well,
we
like,
never imagined at all, like in the case with incest.
right.
so
I
so
don't
then
know. It's like I have this knowing, but it doesn't jive with how I used to be. But I don't really know why I know, because I haven't experienced it. So it's kind of like, is that really true? Could that really be true? And then it's like, well, whose truth? I don't know. It just
there you go. There
seems.
you go. That's very cool. So, the problem also is you're asking a lot of questions but not getting answers. But it seems like that bothers you, not getting answers. Maybe that's the lesson, Donna.
I'm not going to have the answers all the time.
Make peace with the fact, yeah. Or Not just assume that you won't get answers, keep persisting for them, but just be patient about it.
Yeah. Well, let's say, for example, like in my old world, it was very conventional, and if you go by society,
Right,
you got, you went to college, you got married, you had kids,
right,
blah blah blah. I see that as evolving for the universe, and that system not working well. I
correct.
feel that way. Okay, so then you go from that was me to divorce to, okay, now what does the relationship look like? I want interdependence, and I am very independent, although I want to share my life with somebody as well. So
Right.
what does that look like? I feel like if I don't see somebody I'm in a relationship with for a few days, or I don't hear from them, in the beginning, I felt like that was rejection. And it was like, why aren't you,
Right,
talking?
right,
And,
right. So a bit of insecurity, in other words.
right. Well, now it doesn't feel like that way at all.
Brilliant.
But at all. It's
That's
like,
fantastic.
okay,
That
he's
means you
doing
have
his
you
thing, I'm doing my thing. When it flows and it seems right, it flows into place. We
and
have a great,
is that not absolutely magically awesome?
yeah,
Because that allows for maximum appropriateness, right?
right.
Life is easy. So maybe it's time to celebrate. That's a major milestone to get to that point in a relationship. Go on groups and forums and stuff that are all about relationships, and you'll see that what you've achieved, it's very rare and highly sought after.
Well, here's where
That's
the
because
love,
you've shifted, Donna.
well, I know, but for me, like open relationship, where if I had an interest, like let's say there was a sexual attraction that I had for somebody else, I would not feel, that wouldn't be for me. I don't feel for me an open
Right,
relationship where
right,
I experience sexually
right,
that kind of relationship.
right.
That only feels right for me for that part
Do,
of the
do you
relationship
hear the
with one
should?
person.
Do you hear the should in there? What you just said. There's that underlying should.
No, it's just for me. That's how I feel.
Right. But what's the point of mentioning it? If you say, well, I like potatoes and meat, which I'm eating now. I don't need to mention something that's something that I enjoy unless there's some reason for it. So it sounded like you were mentioning it as a justification to say, yeah, but because there was almost that yeah, but was sort of included there, even though you didn't say it. But I don't want to open a relationship. I'm happy. In other words, it's like maybe you feeling that if you are truly a free, independent person, spiritually aware and awake, that an open relationship is just part of that mindset, that system. You see what I mean? Like it goes with
Right.
the territory, but it doesn't. Says who?
I don't know. Says
Well,
that
that's my
guy said
point.
to
You see
me.
what I mean by the implied should?
Well, the reason I bring it up is because I'm fully aware it's causing a conflict.
Oh. Oh, whoa,
But like,
whoa, oh, hang on. How is this causing a conflict that you don't want to
okay,
open a relationship? Sorry, that's the part I'm missing. Then.
okay. So I I have this limiting belief that for my spiritual growth to continue, and if I continue to grow, I don't know what the word is. People say enlightenment. I'm not really big on so much
No.
words as I am what happens inside of you. But there's that shift, and you know what I'm talking about.
Right. Right.
There are those that don't, like I've shared with you before, that don't operate in the world, and people are like, do you even have sex? Does your body just stop desiring having those types of sexual desires? Because when there's a union between whatever and whatever, and you become enlightened, you don't have those kinds of things. And I don't know the answer to that. So it's almost like, okay, I want to be connected to my higher self, and I don't want to not have a relationship with somebody because that's very important to me. And so, like, the two feel in conflict with one another. like in an either or. So then I'm like, well, I have this relationship. For me, the sexual piece is with one person, and that's how I feel comfortable being in that relationship. But yet there's this like little voice in the back saying, if you've truly kind of transcended your ego, maybe it is just an exchange of energy, and you're just kind
Right.
of shifting that energy through sexuality, and you should just be open and see where it flows. But then it's like, that just doesn't
Right. But you see what I mean?
right.
That's somebody else's idea. That's a should that's creeping into your thinking. All right. Let me ask you a really profound question.
All
Is
right.
there a path to spirituality?
I don't think so at all.
All right. So there's more than one.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Now you're absolutely sure about that? Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, I agree. I think there's many paths. All right. So now let me ask you, of those many paths, the path that you, Donna, are on, is that one of somebody else's path, or is it your path? Is it
It's mine.
it's your individual path, exactly. And for everybody else, can your path be a valid path for somebody else?
No.
No, because
They
it's your
have
path.
their own. Right.
Exactly. So that's the key issue here. Your spiritual path is not some recipe or some guide or whatever, some formula. It's your individual path. Whatever that may be, your individual path to spirituality could involve things like incest and monogamy. That's your path. Everybody else has got their own path. Just
Right.
saying. Did you see my point? It's like you learn from stuff that you need to learn. However that is, however unusual or different, doesn't make any difference. It's your path. Now, you brought, I mean, I'm kind of sticking on the word incest. I don't mean to just because it's anomalous, and you brought it up. So, but the fact that you brought it up and you said, well, you know what, this is stuff that came from the past, and you said, but it's not an issue for you anymore. You've you've learned, you've grown, you've updated. It's no problem, right?
Right.
So your spiritual path went through that, and it was awesome. So in other words, the unusual from a normal, usual sense of view was part of your spiritual path.
Well, part of my spiritual path would be what most people would consider like many forms of drama and trauma. I mean, almost
Right, right,
like any kind you mentioned,
right,
I could say, yep, I can relate to that. Yep, I can relate to
right.
that. Yep, I can
So,
relate to
so,
that.
so you've had enough of the weird and the unusual. Now you want a little bit of normalcy and just one person, because there's no right or wrong to this. It's what you want, and that's it. End of story. You decide what your spiritual path is. All right. So let's resolve this in another way, since we're on anomalies. So now you could say, all right, yes, fine, okay, I'm happy deciding that's what I want. I just want to be in one single relationship with one single person, and that's the end of story. But how do I know that what I want is legitimate and makes sense?
And will it's universally what
Appropriate.
happy.
Exactly. Now, all right. So are you getting any pressure to not be in a relationship with a single person?
No, every time I'm ready to go out and date, like I feel like, okay, I'm too attached or something, and I should just release this person, and I should go out and I've never been a person that's been casual with sexual activity. I don't know why I'm telling you all this personal stuff. I don't normally talk about this, but it's important.
Donna, it is important. And hey, I've heard everything. I mean, this is very mild stuff, so please, no worries.
Okay, so
Truly,
I've never been a
nothing
person.
shocks me, and it's all about appropriateness. You know, what I mean, and it makes sense, and it's necessary. So this is very important, because it's sometimes the 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 profound is in the details. You know, it's in the mundane details. So it's very important, this stuff. So, all
Well,
right. So
here's
so
what I
so
think is
so I just want to clear something that I was under the impression you're in a relationship with Steve, right? But you're also
yes, I
thinking
am.
maybe of transitioning to another relationship with somebody else.
Well, here's the thing. I want to go back if I may, and then I'll pick that back up. So please
Yes,
remind me to do that.
please, yeah.
It might be helpful. So in my in my past, in my childhood, I have a motion picture that involves incest that could have happened with my dad and my brother. However,
Okay.
I don't know if it did or not. I
Interesting.
honestly do not know. And
Okay.
there's nobody I can go to confirm or deny that fact.
Right.
So
But
then what
let me just stop
happened
you there
was,
for 1 second. The fact that you do not know, is that maybe not a blessing?
I don't know if it's a blessing or if
All right.
it's like
So
stuck in there.
so
And
so so
it's,
at what point do you choose how to relate to it? Why does it have to be something of its own self? Why can't you choose what you're going to decide it's going to be? So since you don't know at this point in time, you're going to say, fine, it's a blessing that I don't know. If you happen to find out, then it's a blessing that you found out. Why can't
right.
it
I
be a
like that.
blessing either way? Just,
Yes, I
just
like that.
insist on it being a blessing either way. That's it. Very
All
simple.
right.
Life is easy.
Uh, so then what ends up happening is I have children, and my oldest, she starts showing signs of incest, and I'm watching Oprah or some show, and then I'm hearing all this stuff is coming to me about incest. And it was during a time where I was, oh man, this is really good. I'm talking about this. It's starting to make sense now. It was during a time where I was going to therapy. I was depressed. I was on an anti-anxiety. I thought my husband was having an affair. Okay, so now that I know how this works, all those thoughts brought those things into my reality. And that's what I was focusing on. Oh, okay. So then I got this notion that I saw the same behaviors in my daughter, the same type of symptoms of a child that could have had situations. So I thought, okay, well, could it be my husband? Oh no, that can't be. But then it ended up being that I kept thinking, why is she behaving this way? And, what are these symptoms and da da da. Long story short, I end up where my husband and I go through this horrible situation where I hired a private eye, thought he was having an affair, drifted apart. Gee, I wonder why.
You imagine me laughing though. Please, I'm not laughing because I just, sometimes we just got to enjoy the stuff and learn to laugh with it, right? So there's nothing negative about my laughing. I'm just enjoying the drama of it.
Jeez.
Because it is kind of
So,
funny, am I right? In a way.
yeah, I guess. Well, now that I've never put this together. And so I'm talking to you about
I
this.
love it. I love it.
So I brought all that into place. And then obviously what I saw matched up with what I was thinking. So it ended up being transferred to my daughter, my oldest daughter, Amanda,
Right,
the one
right,
that I told you
right,
I feel like I should
right,
reawake.
right.
So I end up I end up having that psychotic break. I lose my job. I have a psychotic break. I end up in that mental hospital. I end up being thrown in a car. We moved to Avon Lake. I come here. I'm living with my mom. My husband's back in Savannah. And my mom tells me, well, I didn't want to say anything, but I saw Amanda, your oldest, and Brian on the couch, and it looked precarious and this, that, and the other. And so that same theme happened. And so I literally was sitting there, and it was confirmed what my thoughts were by my mom. She said, I didn't see anything, but it seemed strange, and they were sitting close and this and that. So from that moment on, my entire life changed. That next day, I went to an attorney. I filed for a divorce. I had Child and Protective Services come. I had Amanda taken to the doctor. We all went to counseling. Our world was yuck.
Wow.
Okay, do you
All right.
see the pattern?
So this Amanda, who was the incest with? Your husband or your
That's
father?
what the thought was.
Oh,
My
okay. So
husband.
it's not necessarily. So your husband was Amanda's father.
Yes, yes,
All
yes.
right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, there's this movie of me with my dad and my brother, and then there in that movie, the reason I'm bringing up the sex part is I really need to get to this.
Yeah, it's
Because
important.
in that movie, it starts very young. It's very blurry. It's family members, and then it's uncles, and then it's really negative relationships with men. and then it carries on to me drinking excessively in college. Then I have faint memories of fraternity parties where it happened, and then where it gets really yucky
where what happened? Sorry.
Sexual assault.
Okay. So now let's go back 1 second though. I get the feeling that as a child this happened maybe with uncles or with somebody as well, right? Okay.
Dad's brother, uncle.
Because you didn't say it specifically like that. So there was inappropriate sexual contact with uncle, sexual assault, in other words, or even potentially rape, molestation, the whole gamut, something involved there. Okay. Sexual inappropriateness, in other words. Okay.
Right, from a very young age. And then it continues. And this is where it gets dark. It's like my brother and my husband, there's almost like I don't know, like this. Oh, okay, I'm just going to say it. It's like this cult kind of thing where almost like, yeah, she's like that, or she's easier. Conversations
like somehow it's your fault.
Right.
Is that what you mean?
Then, yeah. And then I'm with I met my husband when I was 15. And so he was the first person I went out and drank with. And so then it happened with his friends. Okay, this is on the movie, and I don't know if it happened or not. Wow. So then after that.
So basically his friends kind of used you as a sexual object.
Right.
Okay.
And then it continues. We get married, but I don't remember any of this until right before I had my psychotic break. So anyway,
that's very interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Right. So this all surfaced and then the psychotic break. Okay. So I would say, just on balance of probability, pay attention to it as it being real, because the psychotic break comes just after that. In other words, there's lots of repression, not wanting to look at the awful truth, and it comes out and it's too much, and then you get things go haywire. So likely there's reality to it.
I mean, it was bad. I mean, there was like real meanness. And
Correct.
The thing that is there's a
and that's interesting what you say. That's interesting. Make a note there. Meanness. Write that down.
There's definitely meanness.
Right, but that's important.
I mean, there's a picture of my dad dropping me off in what was considered the ghetto, because I said my favorite teacher in second grade was black, and he hated black people. So he dropped me off and said, well, since you love them so well, why don't you hang out with them? And I was really young, and so I had to find my way back home. That's pretty mean.
Wow. Yeah, that's very mean. That's very interesting, though. It's very powerful. Right.
So then the sexual abuse happens, but it always happens surrounding by alcohol and being drugged. And it continues with my husband. Like, we went, for an example, just one example, we went on a trip and we stayed at one of his friend's house, and I only had 2 beers, but all of a sudden I felt very, very intoxicated, and then I don't have memory after that, and then I do have a memory, and those kinds of things. More than once, being married. That's classic drug rape stuff. All right, so on that trip, did your husband have buddies that came along? Yes.
All right, so it's not an uncommon thing where somebody would do that, and it's like, okay, now all the buddies take a turn and shit like that. It's just ridiculous. All right, so
my brother did that on his 18th birthday.
Your brother was the perpetrator?
Well, I have memories involving my dad, my brother, on I believe it was his 18th birthday, and his friends, my husband and his friends, an uncle,
So your brother did the same shit as your father did, in other words.
My brother did the same shit as my dad. I even have a scenario.
Your dad, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it started with my dad. My brother got caught. I have it in this movie. My brother got caught. My dad beat the shit out of him.
For getting caught.
for getting caught, and then
right,
my brother saying, "Why are you beating me for doing the same thing you do?"
right. But that's the point. Your brother didn't get it. He was getting a beating for getting caught, not for what he did.
Right.
It's different. Your father didn't like the fact that he got caught because it exposes him, puts him in jeopardy, and he's just irritated at the stupidity of this of your brother of getting caught. Right. So your brother didn't understand that he was being punished for being caught. What he was doing, according to your father, was okay, but the great sin is to get caught. Right.
Right.
All right.
So, and the
So
reason I
basically,
bring all that
your
up,
father and your brother are both gross pieces of shit.
they're dead.
All right, but doesn't matter. They still gross pieces of shit, whether they're dead or not. I'm sorry. I don't know all this thing about not speaking ill of the dead. If you were shit in life and you're dead now,
Oh,
it
no,
doesn't
no.
make you any less shitty.
The only reason
All
I
right.
said they're dead is like
Okay.
it's done. I mean, they've
Right, right,
transitioned.
right, right.
It's
No,
all
no, I don't mean it in an emotional way. I'm saying it purely as a factual thing, so that we understand that where we are, that we're clear about what they are. Right. That's the only reason I'm mentioning this, because
okay.
I have seen this, and I'm going to share a profound story with you. One from Clara's class, right? Eska's story, where despite her father being this profound piece of shit, oh, I still love my daddy and all this crap. It's like there's no reality of, but this guy is a complete, utter, horrid waste of space as a human being. He's just a piece of crap. That's it. End of story. There's no way around it. So we have to be real sometimes with the awful truth. That's the only point. I mean, it sounds like you are real about it. And
Right.
okay.
Well, the thing that's challenging about it is all of that was repressed, and I had no idea. And then I started a spiritual awakening, and I got involved with some people that were helping, and little by little things were coming up, and then it became overwhelming, and I had tremendous sadness and went through therapy. And when I was able to look back, I said to the therapist, why are these things coming back as a movie? Other people know. They know this happened. I remember on such and such a date. I can't say that. It looks like a movie to me.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yes, no, it's most magical. All right, so excuse me for saying most magical, because I have that different perspective on things, and when we sense in the overall long-term universal context, we can't help but see the magic. So I'm going to share a profound story for you to put things somewhat in context rather than
Okay.
me just explain. Right? It's just very cool. So as we go through this, just say stop whenever and take notes, and we carry on. We discuss as it goes through, because there's a lot involved here, and I'm very keen to go through this with you, and a lot of stuff is going to make sense. There's just a lot going on here. All right. There we go. Okay, let me do a screen share. This is magical stuff, Donna. This is magical stuff. This is magical stuff. And the one thing that I truly hope that you take from my reaction and understanding and listening to you is just, man, Donna, you're magical, and you've chosen a path that is something, and you're just awesome. Anyway, all right. So I wonder if you'll be able to hear this now. Let me see if you can hear it, or if I have to change things.
Okay. I can't hear it.
No, it's not playing just yet. Well, it was, but it was very soft. Well, I want to put it louder and then see if the mic will pick it up. If not, I'm going to shift and do something. So yeah, it just takes a second. Ugh. There's lots of options, many ways to fry a pancake.
Indeed.
Those things are a bit slow. There we go. We're getting movement. Okay, let's do it that way first. And right. Oh, that's why. I have to get out of screen share for a second. Okay, microphone. Can you hear me, Donna?
I can hear you.
Okay. Now I just switched the microphone to a more general one, and it's not usually the same quality, but I think it's going to pick up the story as I play it. Let's see.
Okay.
There we go.
Chapter 6, Eska's story.
Can you hear that?
Any more comments? Clara asks, sensing more somewhere.
Do you hear Biela's voice?
New to the class direct.
I'm trying to.
Not to the class as a whole, as the others usually do. Bummer. More. What's the bummer?
Can you hear that?
Clara pays attention. It's sensing.
Okay.
About the move. Why so? Because she doesn't want to move. Eska laughs a bit uncomfortably.
Is that clear now or not?
Moving when I was a kid also.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
How did you deal with
hold
it?
on. Let me start the
Eska
process
is
again.
silent, unsure whether to say
put
more.
the speaker right
Clara
next to
waits
the microphone.
receptively.
So that's totally clear enough, yes? Sorry, that's totally.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. So do me a favor as we go along. Just say pause or stop or hold on or whatever, just in case we want to take notes and stuff, because there's a lot going on in the story. I don't know, maybe notes won't be necessary, but in case they're all, if we want to discuss something. But other than that, and then what I'll do is I can scroll through the text if you like this as well as we listen. You like that too?
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
I always enjoy reading and listening at the same time. All right, here we go.
Clara's Class, Chapter 6, Eska's Story, Part 1. Any more comments? Clara asks, sensing more somewhere. Eska, who is relatively new to the class, directs her comment at Clara, not at the class as a whole, as the others usually do. Bummer. More. What's the bummer, Eska? Clara pays attention. It's Eska she's sensing. About the move. Why so? Because she doesn't want to move. Eska laughs a bit uncomfortably. I hated moving when I was a kid also. Asked, how did you deal with it? Well, I just did what I was told. Eska is silent, unsure whether to say more. Clara waits receptively, the class taking their lead from Clara. They want to hear them more, but realize eagerness might actually discourage Eska. She is shy and somewhat awkward in the class. She hasn't spoken or shared before. Clara's attention is only on Eska, drawing her into a comfort bubble of a seeming one-on-one interaction. Eska continues, until I was older. Then I ran away, ha. One aspect of the Martin schools Clara especially loved was their openness. Martin schools were schools.
All right, so just to fill in, this is chapter 6, obviously. So we're missing chapters 1 to 5. So there's ongoing story somewhat, and some references to stuff that went before. But that doesn't matter to the story. Don't worry about that. It's all gonna fall into place as we go along. It really doesn't matter. So just kind of set aside what doesn't make sense. Okay.
Okay.
Was for everyone, not just children. The bulk of the students were children, but certainly not all. One such student was Eska, a middle-aged woman with evidence of a hard life on her face. A somewhat shy, kind, loving, sensitive, and deep soul, able to laugh at herself, appreciative of her childlike essence, despite having seen and lived it all. She had missed her own childhood and schooling, growing up on a world which had only in the last year joined the agglomeration. The first moment travel off-world was possible, Eska had been one of the first to the new spaceport. Eska is awkward, unsure, but also wanting to say more. She adds, yes? More, ha. I love you for adding me in. Clara merely nods and waits with acceptance.
Oh. I think I have it as separate.
As the awesomeness of the universe was wont to provide, Eska had been seated next to a returning diplomat on the space flight out. Eska took the opportunity to release all her questions. Returning to visit a cousin, a teacher. Facilitator, the diplomat had corrected himself. From there Eska had extracted all she could regarding facilitators and the Martin schools. His sharing had transformed her. She had not known what she was going to do in the ag, but now she knew. Eska had spent all she had on the space flight, but the diplomat was from heaven it seemed. When he saw Eska's true, real, sincere, earnest passion for filling in all she had missed, he assured her he would get her subsidized and she did not have to worry about a thing. All she would have to do was do what she dearly wanted to do, simply attend the school. Eska had nodded with deep, sincere, earnest commitment, little knowing just how incredibly fun the whole thing would be. At first she had been awkwardly shy about being an adult in amongst the kids. She had gravitated to the other adults in the older classes, but she had not felt comfortable there. It was the full acceptance that actually made her a bit uncomfortable. She almost immediately saw these kids didn't care about age. Their culture being influenced by the gaming, where age was a non-issue as all ages played together. But the few adults were, well, adults. Eska realized she was not. She had never been an adult, and never wanted to be. She now understood. She wanted to be a kid, and stay a kid. But, the kind of kids she had come to know here in her new life, the Martin School kids, innocent, sweet, loving, caring. But, boy oh boy, were they sophisticated. This she knew she had in her, but needed to learn how to access it better, to bring it out more. She loved the openness and lack of pressure of being a kid, one who could ask and not know, who wasn't expected to know, one who could get it wrong and it was part of the fun.
Screen sharing. Sorry.
This was how Eska came to be in Clara's class, the one mostly made up of pre-teens. She had been welcomed like never ever before in her life. She had cried and cried that first day in class, when the kids had been eager to have her. They wanted her there, and not because she was adult, just because they recognized her for who she was, a loving, innocent soul. A soul who also happened to know stuff, deep stuff.
Sorry, Donna, I took it off screen share for a moment. It's back on screen share. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right, so here's part 2 of this chapter 6.
Clara's Class, Chapter 6, Eska's Story, Part 2. The class had immediately wanted to find out all about her. How come she was so awesome to join their class? This they had seen as a tremendous positive. Admiring Eska for her courage, completely surprising her. They were everything she had never expected, but had always hoped for. When she had struggled to express, they had let her be, showing it was all okay and that her story would come when it came. Eska was amazed at their sophisticated understanding of story, soon discovering why. On the surface, the class was about reading and discussing stories, but the kids have come to know that it was really about providing the opportunity or connection for them to tell their stories. This had intimidated Eska at first. Her story was so unlike theirs. But, as the stories came, that fear died. She thought no more of it, just listened and loved. Until Eska suddenly realized why the class was called Discernment Class. And what that meant to the kids. She had thought rather obviously at first it was about discerning the books and the writing and what they meant and so on. But to the kids it meant more, much more. For them discernment meant personal growth. They saw discernment as extending yourself into a new person, to growing into the person, right there in this class, a class that could discern, that could figure out what was going on, that could see what needed to be seen, who could grasp and take on new ways of being. Because the kids did the actual reading of the books themselves, not Clara to them, usually with them, they took on the spirit of it as Clara showed them, which was not to just read the story, but to enact it, to become the character one was reading, and thus to grow in the taking on of possibilities of being. This was huge to Eska, who had never had such opportunities in her life. Eska especially liked how the kids seemed to borrow characters for a while after having read them for a class, adapting and modifying as needed, or using as precisely as they could. Afterwards they would play with that persona, be like them, act like they imagined they would, all completely without reservation. The other kids supporting them or joining in with their own characters, some from the story, some from other places she knew not of and many simply made up on the spot. But it was not acting of a kind like she had seen the kids she had known before attempt, like imitating or copying. This was different. They were changing how they were, on the spot. It was clear that some of them were to be, and talk and act, in their newly adopted ways, for the foreseeable future. This is how many of them had come to have their current names and ways of being, and those would change again. The freedom to be, overwhelmed Eska. She loved the expansion of being, but realized it would take her some time to get to where they were. A lifetime of habits in the way. But she was determined to get to that freedom of being. Such incredibleness would be hers also. And, she realized, these ways of being were completely natural. The kids had simply grown up in an environment and culture where all this was what they came into. It was their normal, to be anything they wanted. To change, vary, experiment, and be whatever they wanted, for as long as they wanted. Over this Eska wept deeply, when she thought of the children who never had this, might never have. She hoped with all of her being that none would ever again be denied this magic in the future. Princess, who was sitting next to Eska, could take the suspense no longer. Really, for reals. Like actual running away? Like on your own?
So it's a bit of a long preamble, but yeah, the story starts. It's kind of necessary, the preamble, to just get a feel of what's going on a little bit. So, but anyway, I enjoyed it all. It's part of the Biala series, so it's all good. You know, it's the same universe. Different planet though. They're in one of the regular worlds, not on Nobilia. It's not a new nobility world.
I see.
All right, so yeah, the story starts. Or Eska's story.
Clara's Class Chapter 6, Eska's Story, Part 3. Really, for reals? Like actual running away? Like on your own? Yes, for really reals. I ran away from the ages of 13 on. I got institutionalized and eventually legally emancipated at age 17. Wow, where did you go? What did you do? Were you in the institution all that time? How did you get in there in the first place? Princess understood, as did the class, that Eska was more likely to respond one-on-one. She was asking for the class, knowing they did not understand much of what Eska meant, but that it would come, if not from Eska, then from facilitator Clara. I started getting arrested at age 11. At age 13 I was put into a group home. I made several attempts at suicide and would not go home. Mom would eventually call the cops because she was worried, but mostly she worked full-time. So I was alone, and did what I wanted. Eska's face changed expression rapidly, inside her story now, oblivious to the class. One time I ran away 42 miles to the next town. It took them 6 weeks to find me. That's when I first met John, his bro, and family. I liked drugs and alcohol and boys. Clara did not show anything other than she was listening, mindful of appropriate cueing, which made all the difference in such instances. The Martin schools did not shy away from the awful truths of life. The kids were better served learning what it really was, rather than being frightened with exaggeration or protected with pretending it wasn't part of life. Especially these kids, who interacted with the galaxy via gaming and other connected activities. Access to a genuine first-hand account was invaluable. Another time I was 15, I ran away 3 hours away. It took them about 2 months to find me, and only because someone called me in low. I went to state hospital at age 13. Was there for 7 months. It was effing horrible. Clara did not react to the swearing, not now. She felt certain it was not something Eska would ordinarily do. Besides, the kids would also know it to be unusual. Clara did not want to break her immersion. Instead she added, how did that come about? You didn't volunteer, I'm guessing. Arrested for what, by the way? I was in a group home a total of 10 times, juvenile hall 9 times, rehab 3 times, countless foster homes. Whoa, from Princess. Eska realized Clara had asked her a question. No, I was mostly arrested for running away, but I was deemed as troubled. Was just about to ask. Put on medications, labeled. And were you? Troubled, I mean, blah. Well, my mom was an alcoholic who went through many nervous breakdowns. My father molested and beat me. I just acted out, to know why. Princess was horrified at this, but also knew not to make a victim out of Eska. Seems to me you had good reasons to run away, like inside you. Just guessing here, but... To know why? Clara responded with a quiet fierceness. Is that right? They're not crazy good reason. Like you would not run away. You would have been most troubled in the head if you had stayed, yes? Clara knew she was not risking advocating this behavior. Eska's planet and culture were alien to these children. On the Ag Worlds, running away was not an issue and there were many places a kid could go to for help. Besides, via the gaming and the top-of-the-line gaming rigs at the schools, players were connected biometrically to the games, which considerably enhanced play interaction. They all knew that emotional and stress monitoring was part of the connection, and knew it to be good. The games could be intense. Of course, stress brought to the game was also recorded. Everyone on the school premises was constantly monitored for medical safety. Most homes have this fantastic feature. An abused child would not go undetected after even one incident.
So lots of like background stuff
Clara's
coming in.
Class,
Yeah.
Chapter 6, Eska's Story, Part 4. Yeah, I just wanted to not have a parent who was so unstable. I wanted to be my own kind of unstable and find a man. Why find a man? Clara asked earnestly. She not only wanted to know for the class, but herself as well. Yeah, well, it took me years, but I got myself out of the system. Because I was obsessed with finding love. All I ever found was sex. Cool and good for you. Princess liked happy endings. About getting out, I mean, she added, blushing. Well, I'm still considered disabled, so I get government money. Still to this day, cause of my childhood. Pretty cool, huh? Yes, sort of. At least it has a payoff that is valuable. Just goes to show. Clara did not want to leave any details undiscussed. How exactly did you get into the drugs? I'm always most fascinated by the very first time with such things. I wanted drugs, I found them easily, and I lived for them only my young years. You wanted drugs before your first time? How come? Yes, I know, Eska's qualmed a bit. I have to add I was deeply sensitive. Cause they allured to me. Yes, way before. School taught us about them. Yes, I'd imagine. And I daydreamed about them. I was curious and I just wanted to make an identity with them. This is the part I want to hear. They didn't teach you to want drugs. Still not sure why I did, but maybe it was the cause of my dad. He had a tattoo on his back of a guy shooting up and it said, "Until death." Interesting. And that was? Like, how did you understand the tattoo? I lived with him when I was 11. He had it on his back. And the schools taught us how bad they were. I fell in love with them. Lol. That seems a bit opposite. How come? What did the tattoo mean to you? I'm not fully connecting its influence. It meant my dad would be a junkie until death. I had no other way of relating to him. Cause I was relating to my father. So you felt if you were also doing drugs that would kinda connect you too? He was not easy to be around, but when it came to drugs I was understanding him. Don't know really. But maybe yeah. I get you now. Yes, that's powerful and the way it can be if that's all there is. What was his attitude to you using? Well, he wasn't around. After he molested me I stayed away from him for 15 years or so. Good. He never knew you used? Not until we started speaking again. After Phil was born on Mother's Day he called me. I was 19 years old and I told him. We shared war stories. Did that help you understand him and connect to him? Yes and yes. And was it worth it? Eska didn't answer. Couldn't answer yet. Her body trembled in negation. Eska wasn't ready to acknowledge culpability. There had been much that had been worth it, or so she believed. The evidence of her said otherwise. But it would come when it came. Such deep-seated conceptual misbeliefs were difficult to overcome. And well, I went to visit him again when I was 26. Tried to detox soft major heroin. Once I was detoxed he brought home heroin and cocaine. Lol. We shared an evil several times. You tried detoxing by going to see him again? Yeah, he said he was clean and working. He paid for my ticket. Eska's ongoing unease showed in how she continued to run her sentences together. So he did care about your detoxing. Yes? Anyways, I left after a month. A boyfriend traveled several days to come get me. No, he didn't know how to care. Yes, he obviously didn't. Interesting lie. How come you think? What was in it for him? Well, he probably was until he wasn't. Lol, but he did try, but he was very controlling. I don't do controlling, haha. I mean I won't. And yes, good. Like controlling how? Put up with it too long. Yeah, he wanted you with him, and using, so he could control you? He was just effing weird. He got mad at me for eating and showering. I had to clean the whole house and mow the lawn, and bring him beer. Princess didn't particularly want to interject, but this was too much for her. Wow. Like what's up with that? He wanted a slave. Clara voiced what was not only happening for Esker, but the class as well. Alright, it all falls into place. Yes? He wasn't stable. Yeah. When did you let go of him? Well, he died last November. He did end up living in Salt Hollows when Gabe was born. He lived in a religious homeless shelter. I never let him be around Gabe alone ever. Gabriel is almost 9 now. Clara had deliberately not asked who the names Esker had mentioned were. Those details would easily come later. It gave the kids something to ask Esker. Besides, it would shift the focus too much to go into such details.
You still with me, with us, Donna?
Yes. Yeah, I'm here.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Okay, it comes. I mean, there's a real point to this. So just stick with it. I mean, it's fun and interesting now, but it's not why I want to listen to the story. It's coming. It's coming. It builds towards that. So.
Clara's Class Chapter 6, Esker's Story Part 5. But when did you let go of him as a parent, as somebody you wanted to connect with? When did you let go of that bubble side of your thinking of him that was based on childish ideals and not a fully accurate perception? He died of cirrhosis and hep C. Esker struggled with the pronunciation. Clara let it go, giving Esker the opportunity to see that it didn't matter if she didn't know. Many years ago, when he left Salt Hollows, I guess, but he is in my heart. Drug-related diseases, and that is good, the letting go, the dropping of what is really an idealized notion, not reality. Yes? I know he did his best and he did try. Yes, hep C is from forward drug use, and the liver disease is from alcohol. Esker went still, searching for what she had not yet found. Clara suspected, yes, those are typical. But Esker, the more here. Inappropriate application of goodness, that's the bottom line here. Yes, would you say that? Yeah, now I want to ask you something profound. But he was very confused always. He molested his younger brother, etc. Clara skipped this, not wanting to dwell on such details. Okay. What? Let's imagine you, as a soul, floating in the nothing in between lives. Let's imagine you as the soul part of Esker, not the part that is still learning, the part trying to become aware, but like a knowing without knowing, subconscious like soul part of you, that knows stuff. Let's imagine that soul part of you chose the life you had, chose those parents. The profound question is, why? Why did you choose those circumstances to be born into, knowing what was likely to come? Cause I really want the highest learning lol. Esker surprised the class with her immediate and deep response. And I wanted to learn self-love through chaos. It means so much. Clara beamed and radiated her joy at this incredible answer. And Clara asked with deep positivity, to love yourself when you come from these things. It's deeply profound. And the fact that I love others as well. I am not too jaded. I'm very open and kind. Many people give up and give in. Sometimes I still do with drinking and stuff. Clara went deeper. What about tendencies, predispositions and beliefs you carried over? Huh? Like what did you bring with you into this life? Let's imagine. Like what was just there, like in you, from always, from when you first started to be you, what was already in you as you. Not what you learned, but was innate you. What did you bring into the world, by way of ideas and beliefs and conceptions and understandings? Esker still wasn't sure what Clara meant. Like stuff your soul needs to learn? Like we're imagining this Esker in his body now is just a temporary, and the details of this life are stuff that comes and goes. But what is the stuff that you will take with you for next time, and what did you bring with you from last time? Well, I was very empathic and I seen things like subatomic particles swirling around me. I still don't know why.
Too.
Also talked to myself for hours and hours, and I enjoyed singing, and I always loved my mom. It is why she kept...
Say again, Donna?
What's up?
Oh, no, I thought you said something.
Oh, I see subatomic particles too.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Wow. Wow. All right. So I hope you're taking notes, because if there are notes to be taken, not that there are necessarily, but then we come back to it, because it isn't that I'm sharing the story because it's a parallel. It isn't really. Well, we'll come to why I'm sharing.
Me, not my bro. He was kind of opposite of me. I'm not sure I understand the question. Okay. I mean, like, we're imagining how stuff might work with life and death and rebirth, and we are especially imagining that you deliberately chose to be born to those parents, knowing who and what they were. Now, why would you deliberately do that? We're assuming you had very good reasons to do so. What were those reasons? Oh, I think I already answered that. Cause I wanted the highest amount of learning through pain and loss. Yes, I mean in detail. Like, what specifically did you need to learn? That's absolutely it, yes. I am keen on the specific beliefs and conceptions you had which messed you up initially. This last connected intimately with Eska. I needed to learn so much, Clara. How to be positive. I was very depressed, I hurt myself a lot. I needed to learn I'm worthwhile. That happiness didn't elude me. I want to hear all of it. We have all day. All forever, really. Please don't cry, Eska. This is happy stuff. Eska's chin quivered. That I was smart and funny. And good. Even though I wasn't fitting in life. I'm getting tired. I feel like I'm in therapy. I sure prefer you to therapy, but I hate talking so much. Clara laughed gently. Oh, I'm so keen to hear more. Okay, just give me the concepts, beliefs and key understandings then. Just the main words and hints. I had to learn that I loved more than I was loved, cause I needed to love myself first. I had to learn men weren't going to fix me. I had to learn that I was creating my own suffering, and I had plenty.
Say the last part.
Clara's Class Chapter 6, Eska's Story Part 6. I had to learn that I was creating my own suffering, and I had plenty. Clara nodded, her listening. What ideas and beliefs did you have when a child which were bogus? That if mom was sad or upset, it was because of me. That I wasn't okay. That kids didn't like me. I was too honest. And kids would stop wanting me around. I got rejected a ton. I was by myself a lot, even very young. State tried to take me away from my mom when I was only 7. She shipped me off to another place after her boyfriend beat me, haha. I can't think the way you want me to in this format. Eska indicated the class. You do remind me of a therapist or healer. You are fine, Eska. It's not thinking I am after, it's sharing. Eska responded immediately, whatever word you prefer. Oh, thank goddess for that. Cause thinking doesn't happen inside here in a way that you think, I'm sure. Clara smiled. I am asking because all the lessons are there. I am asking simply to bring them out, to bring them to full awareness, so you can share your learning with us. Cause it's sharing with me and us and with you yourself also. Yes? Yes. But, thinking, it's happening. It always happens. But thinking about thinking is a cockeyed thought sometimes. I am just listening to you showing your depth. Oh, hee hee. Well, I know as a kid I felt shame, deep shame, always. And very nervous. I couldn't make eye contact and kept my hair in my face. I was terribly fearful. I can listen to this kind of awareness understanding all day. It's not the details in themselves you see. But with every detail you shared today, there was awareness of more in along with it to greater or lesser degrees. Yes? I attracted new people somehow. Yes. Shame for what? And why exactly did you attract mean people? Eska frowned. I do see that. But I have told much of this before. I attracted mean people cause I was nice, haha. I liked to have friends and mean people always wanted to be my friend. So I took what I could. Hey, I just realized. This is all a story I've been identifying with. I have identified with this crap my whole life. I'm a problem. I'm troubled. I'm ill. I'm sad and broken. But I'm not any of this. I'm living a lie. I'm sure it's a past I can let pass. Miss Clara, you know, I have had a hard life, but what about you? Any pain, loss or grief? And you will tell much of it again, Eska. There is always more. Our stories are ever with us until we have extracted all the awareness we can. Then they change. Then they become stories of reminders of the awesome lessons we have learned. Reminders of the most excellent awareness we have acquired. And then those past stories become a joy to retell. No matter how bad they were at the time, once we see them for what they truly are, then there is always power and joy in retelling or remembering them. Getting to that point of complete positivity of our past is getting to the point where it all makes sense. And that is a point of power. But I'm not really any part of this. The key question though is, what are you?
Oh, there's one more part. Oh, I thought that was the end.
Clara's
Oh,
Chapter 6, Eska's Story Part 7. Eska's smile filled with love. You know you're wonderful, right? I don't know what I am, ha ha ha. But, you know what you are not. Yes? And that is most powerful, yes? Eska shifted inside and out, trying to find herself. I just really think I could spend hours with you if you ever let me. Yes. You know also that you are not limited, that you are not crappy. Yes. And you know you are awesome possibility? Yes, of course I do. But did you know that when you started this life? Cause how would I have such amazing people in my life who love and support me? Oh, no. Did you know what you were not? Not really. And if you never learned what you were not, if you never learned that you are a possible anything, if you never learned that it is your choice, not the choice of others what you are, then what? Then what does that imply for the next life, and maybe the next and next and next? This is my last incarnation, Clara, exactly. I've been told when I was small by a blue light. Haha. So, I am everything and nothing. But the in-between is scary. Cause then it has no story, no ending, no beginning. If you had not learned those critical things, Eska, you'd be stuck and would need to repeat it all over again. And when it comes to eternity, maybe your soul wasn't taking any chances. It made sure to put you in a life where you would most absolutely have every opportunity to learn these critical lessons. Your soul didn't care if it wasn't always going to be nice. In the light of eternity, that is a trivial price to pay. Yes? Eska nodded. Clara repeated what Eska had said for emphasis, but the in-between is scary, cause then it has no story, no ending, no beginning. Another exactly. If you think about it, your childhood was completely about being in between. And who survived? Who came to awesome awareness? Who is a fantastic, good and nice person despite all that? Who has learned to love herself? Who has come to awareness profoundly? Me. Eska jumped up into light, smiling love and joy. Clara returned both. Thank you, Miss Clara. See the power? Eska grinned. I'd kiss your face. See how it all makes sense? In a friendly way, lol. Yeah. Clara never let an earnestly asked question go unanswered. She displayed Eska's earlier question on a screen. Miss Clara, you know, I have had a hard life, but what about you? Any pain, loss or grief? Mine wasn't easy either, Eska, but also it was. I mean, I could have suffered and struggled, but I didn't. I came out of the box knowing stuff that led me to apply what we have been talking about. So I was able to look at the crap and turn it to good. You'll see. In the young man's story I gave you to read when you first came to the school, in the next chapter to where you are now, I think, we come to that pivotal moment in his life, similar to mine. Clara was often asked for recommendations, and was available via the for comments and interactions on her recommended reading. But this is about you, Eska. Let's not waste the power of the realizations. Those are a quick and temporary high if one doesn't lock them in. I know that I long to know your mystery. Just saying. Clara smiled with fun. Why do I have to have a mystery? All you ever want to know about me is always here in class, but it's not you. It's you as a facilitator. It's a guessing game. Clara grinned. Sorry to disappoint, Eska. I am like this at home also. That is my mystery to me. Okay. Eska pouted slightly. Never mind. Just being honest. No worries. Not in the least, Eska. I appreciate honesty very much. I am puzzled as to why you think there is some deep, dark mystery. Well, just keep coming to class and find out. But, you see, you're sharing. That's what I am after in the interactive reading. It's awesome. Just needs the right story. Eska looked uncertainly at the others. The class loves you, by the way, Clara added. Lol. But I am quiet. So far. Give me more? Eska's sharing had given the children much to think about. Clara would have liked to discuss the application of her insights and understandings, but Eska wasn't there yet. She knew it would come when it came. Tomorrow we continue with Amanda, Clara said, providing ease for Eska, The opening for more sharing or discussion implied. Esker could set her own pace. End chapter 6. Hashtag Clara's class, hashtag Esker story, hashtag personal stories, hashtag personal growth.
All right. So any thoughts and comments before I say something, Donna? Did you enjoy the story? I always enjoy it. I've listened to it dozens of times. I love it every time. I don't know why. That's just me. You enjoy the story?
I did.
All right. And anything come up in you?
I've reached a point and shifted to a fact that I understand all that she was saying and could relate to a lot of it.
Right. So the profound part was, and this is a real story, by the way. Yes, it's put in Clara's class, but this is from an actual conversation I had in chat with Stephanie, my friend Stephanie. She's alcoholic, and recently she's sort of come dry. I think. I hope she's still dry. I don't know. It's been like a couple of months now, so I don't know. But this part where Clara asks her why she chose that. Now, if you see some of I've got some other conversations with Stephanie or Esker that I posted, and they're just usual, typical conversations. And when we had this conversation, that's verbatim. I didn't change one single word. My questions are obviously Clara's questions. We didn't change one question. But when I asked her that, like, why do you think, like, let's assume that you chose this life, and what would be the reasons for it? And she said, where is that part? Because I want the highest learning, and I want to learn self-love through chaos. It means so much. That just came immediately. I'd never heard her say anything like that before. It wasn't like she had, it was a preparation. It just kind of popped out. It just came just like that. No, I mean, and that's exactly as she typed it at the time. It was really amazing to me. It's just really profound and incredible. And to love yourself when it comes from these things is deeply profound. And the fact that I love others as well. I'm not too jaded. I'm open and kind. Many people give up and give in. Sometimes I still do it, looking at stuff. So like your soul. So he said, anyway, there was something else he said. Just the way she learned, and that she learned through this all the difficulties that her life, the drama and the trauma, in other words, right? That it was, she wanted to learn in that way because it's the highest type of learning. What do you think of that?
I agree.
I mean, if you look at
I asked myself that question with the awareness that I feel as though you choose. I agree with you. That's how I feel. And I asked that question a couple days ago. Maybe that's why this is all coming up. But it's like, as a soul, wow, you just really made choices that were painful and a lot of them. So why would you do that? Why would you go to such like you didn't miss anything? You're like, okay, we're gonna give it all.
And why? And why? I want to ask you the same question I asked Esker. Why, Donna? Why?
It's the same thing. I feel like it was a desire for the highest learning opportunity that you could have. And
Exactly. So here's the point. Again, it's chapter 10. That origin story, the perfection of the easiness of being perfect in perfect conditions, and to deliberately choose to put ourselves in imperfect conditions to make sure that our learning is.
I can't hear you.
Oh, 1 second, sorry. Dang it. I forgot I switched the mic to the room mic and not the headset mic, for the story. Because the headset
I gotcha.
very closely, the other. So I went to put the kettle on, and normally I just can talk and you can hear me, no problem. So I'll switch it.
All right, there you go.
There you are.
So I was saying that Um, it goes back to chapter 10, that origin story about being perfect in perfect circumstance. We need to learn in imperfect circumstances because that's the highest learning. If we can learn to love and to not become mean, to not become negative, to not become shitty and crappy like the crappy people in our lives, that
Right.
is very profound. For you to not be like your brother went your father's path, you didn't.
Right.
How
I was
should,
very opposite of that. I didn't.
right?
What I did do is I did drink, never did drugs, wasn't casual in sex at all, wasn't
At least not by
promiscuous.
choice.
Oh no, yeah, right, exactly, by choice. But I mean, and here's the ironic part. I truly feel as though I was extremely loving,
Yes.
just very
Yes.
sensitive
Yes.
and super loving and
Right. Right.
accepting and kind. And it used to piss them off. They
Right.
literally would say to me, "How can you be so joyful all the time?" And it would make them
Right.
mad.
Right. So how is that for a profound soul lesson? You got to know what you really are. You might have, let's say in a previous life, somebody said to you, oh, you know what, Donna, you're always nice and joyful, but you know, you've got this wonderful life, you've got this beautiful house, you've got this beautiful relationship. Well, it's pretty easy to be loving and nice and joyful. You may have thought to yourself, you know what, you're right. How do I know I really am that? So in the next life, you choose this horrible, crappy situation, all this drama and trauma and shit, because now you can say, hey, you know what? If I look back, I can claim with absolute honesty that I am loving and joyful. It's a fact of me. It's not something I like to believe about me. It's not something I choose to believe about me. It's not something I want to be in the future. It is something I already actually deeply am. That's a deep.
Does it matter that those situations in my life story and my memories of my dad and my childhood feel like a movie? Does that
No, no,
matter?
no, no, no. It only feels like a movie because that's the way you found to deal with it and process with it. Because at some point, we can't be living inside those emotions. We have to gain perspective on it. And your way to get appropriate perspective is to see it as a movie. You don't want to have to relive all the stuff to extract the lessons from it.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense because you've already experienced that and you've come through it. So now you need to see it more objectively and more dispassionately, like a movie, in other words. Otherwise, you can't really get the lessons from it. You'd be stuck in that emotionality of the time, in that bubble immersion and, you know, all that drama. So it's absolutely vitally necessary that you see it as a movie. It's
Okay.
part of the process. Make sense?
And it doesn't get yeah, it does. And it doesn't get stuck like if we're energy, you know how they say energy sometimes like subconsciously things get stuck within your if you believe in you have different energetic bodies and all that. That's the other thing I wondered if those traumas if I don't face them as a reality and I sort of adapt them to be a movie, then am I really owning them? And maybe they're still subconsciously stuck?
Yeah,
That was
but
the
that's a
other
whole bunch of
question.
maybes. Now, for every maybe that you articulated, right, express it in the opposite.
Okay. The
In other words,
movie.
you don't need to technically, actually in specifically. Well, basically
Oh,
what you said, maybe it's a negative, maybe it's a negative, maybe it's a negative. Now, well, since it's a maybe it's also the very opposite, which is positive. You don't know. So maybes are just, it could just as well
just
be the
use the
exact
positive.
opposite, which is positive.
Right. Okay.
You see what I mean? As much as you're
I
saying
do.
maybe you're not facing with it and that's a negative, which
Well, only
you're gonna
because
get stuck and
I've
all that.
read things. I've
Eh,
read things
Yes, I
and I
know, but
talked to other.
that's the
Okay.
problem. You've only read negative things.
I know. Damn.
So maybe you need to broaden your reading.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, we write about the negative because that's what puts pressure on stuff. People don't often want to hear positive stories because they think it's boring. Well, I disagree. Look at the Biela stories. There's no negativity in there, really, and it's all freaking wonderful as far as I'm concerned. But
I
but
agree.
stories like that are very rare, Donna. So you have to think of this from that complete other perspective, and I think that's part of the universe's deal. It's the lesson is to learn to choose unrelenting positivity.
So do you think all this stuff comes up like today with every single conversation from the moment I woke up to now? Because, I mean, is it a way of checking to see if the lessons were learned?
All right. So let's go through quickly. Just give me a rundown in abstract. What came up repeatedly? Stories of the past, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now, I
right.
mean,
Okay.
things like
But
narcissism, autism, incest, relationships, dating.
okay. So stories of cocked upness, in other words, in some way or
Yeah.
another. All right. I'm saying on an abstract, right?
Right.
All right. I'm just trying to get a handle on them as a group. And then
Okay.
also, what do they mean to you? That collection of stories, symbolically, what do they represent for you?
The past. I mean,
Right, but I mean that's what they
life
literally represent. But like symbolically, what do they represent? Do they do they represent trauma? Do they represent stress? Do they represent unresolved issues? Do they represent learning? That's what I mean. More like that. None of that.
learning.
Learning. Okay. So
And growth.
Right. So here's the key. You've got the same pattern coming up repeatedly. So obviously your attention is being drawn to these things to say, hey, there's something I need to learn out of it. There's some extra learning that because it's coming up as an anomaly, right? Because so many times. When that happens,
Right.
it draws our attention to it, which means there's something to learn from it, something to become aware of, some new awareness to gain from it. Now, you've extracted all the negative trauma and pain and stress and all that. You've made peace with it. You don't have a problem with your past. You're at peace with the past. But there
Right.
is perhaps a further learning. Now, maybe you assume the only learning to be had from it is kind of the negative learning. What about a positive learning in what I just articulated? The fact that you can learn and be aware that you, Donna, are a truly, absolutely in your inner core, for real, are actually a loving, joyful person. It's not something you pretend to be, it's something you are. That to me is a profound lesson to learn from all of this, isn't it?
Yes.
So if we take Eska's story and what she learned to learn to love and be the best in the worst conditions, you've passed that test also. In other words, your goodness is real. There's no doubt about it.
It's true.
How profound is that? Furthermore, you said, hey, you know what? Those things in the past, they were things that happened and they did. And what I got from it, what they represent to me is learning. So the extra thing that we add to that is to say, I chose that learning. Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Right.
Now, likewise, you could say, hey, what is there to learn in my current circumstance and situation? The fact that you don't have the house and the this and the that and all that stuff, is that maybe a lesson to learn to be happy without it? To truly make peace and say, you know what, I can be happy without. I don't have to have it.
I feel like I have.
Right.
None of that matters.
Then you go. Then you're in a good space. So maybe that's the other lesson to say, hey, you know what? Maybe it's time to appreciate and enjoy where you're at and who you are. Because you're always looking at, I've got to learn. What am I not doing? What am I not getting? What am I not understanding? How about shifting that and turning it upside down a little bit and say, well, wait a minute. You know what? It's time to enjoy myself. Time to appreciate myself. When is that going to happen, Donna?
Yeah, I am ready for that. Maybe that's what the geese are about too.
There you go. Okay, so now you're ready for that, and that you said a second ago you're ready for it, right? So fine, right now's the time.
Right. Okay.
There's no future. Time to enjoy yourself and appreciate yourself is right now.
Right.
So are you awesome?
I am awesome.
Exactly. Do you enjoy yourself?
I do indeed.
Exactly. And do you like yourself as a person?
I do.
Right. Okay. Do you need to ask so many questions and be confused so much?
No, I
No,
don't.
you don't need to. Do you know enough?
I do know enough.
Are
There's
you
always
enough?
more.
Exactly.
Pardon?
I was going to say exactly. The next thing I was going to say, are you enough?
I am enough.
And there's
And
also more.
more.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just obvious. So we enjoy the process of learning more, but we also have to take time and say, you know what? I've come a long way. I've learned a lot, and I'm going to enjoy where I'm at because I've proven to myself that I'm for real. I'm not bullshit. I'm not false. I'm not phony. I'm not none of this crap. Yes, I might confuse myself by trying to want to know all the more at once, but that's just a bit of an indulgence, and I got to stop that and just enjoy learning and not worry that I don't know. So what if you don't know? You're enough. So what if you don't know? I'm asking you very earnestly. So what if you don't know? I'm waiting for an answer. I really want to know.
I know.
So
I
what?
know. I'm feeling what I'm feeling because it's more. It's more than. So what if you don't know? Because I know the answer is, it is. It doesn't matter if I don't know. I've come a long way, but it
Exactly.
does matter to me. So why does
Right.
it matter?
Right. But you don't have to feel a pressure that you don't know. That's the thing that throws you out. You know that, yes, okay, you're not going to know everything and you've made peace with that and you know that you're going to know more. But the things that you want to know, the thing that puts you out, that gets you a bit discombobulated, is not knowing it now.
Right.
Why does it have to be right now, today?
I don't know.
Is there any reason? No.
I hear you, but I don't feel you.
Right.
I got to get at the root of why that matters because I know
All right.
the
So,
right
so
answer,
let me ask
but
you
I don't
this.
feel it.
Right. So are you perhaps, in your soul, in your deep self, afraid that if you stop craving the knowing, if you stop like needing that knowing, that you're not going to stop caring about it?
Maybe. And
In some way, there's some association that says, well, if you don't like insist on wanting it, that means you don't really care.
right.
Like that could be some childish belief, like Stephanie's childish belief about her father. See what I mean?
Right.
So sometimes we have these notions, these childish beliefs that are associations, are misbeliefs, really, and we have to unhook them. So, and that's a typical thing that kids say, like a mother says to a child, which is when they're very young, or a father, well, if you don't want it now, that means that you don't care. That means you don't really want it. That could have stuck in you in a very deep way because you could have heard it very early in your life. And it made sense at the time, and you really believed it at the time, and it stuck. But it's not true now.
Right.
If you're not urgent about wanting to know answers, that doesn't mean that you're not going to stop wanting them, right?
Right. I think also my power came in knowing things that other people didn't know, and in
Yeah.
knowing that it helped me make it through that stuff.
Yeah. Very powerful. Very, very powerful.
There's power in knowing beyond the norm for me, I think.
Yes. And you like that and you enjoy that. Own it, because you do. You know lots of stuff. Got to claim that power. Can't just say, oh, it's there. You got to claim it. You got to own it. You got to make it yours.
No, you're right. It helped me survive.
Right. Exactly. But you didn't just survive. You didn't just survive. That's not
Right.
all you did. You did something else too. You evolved. You didn't just
Yes,
survive.
you're right.
You evolved, you grew, you learned, and you didn't just survive, you survived with aplomb, you could say. You survived keeping your joy and your love intact. There are a lot of people who survive traumas, but they're broken, fucked up people, right?
Right.
I mean, Eska survived too, but she'll tell you that she's broken. She struggles. She struggles with the drinking, and she hasn't made peace with all the stuff. She's not really at peace with her parents, who are really cockeyed. She still lives with her mother, or mother lives with her, and her whole life's a mess. Even without the drinking, she struggles with stuff because she's never really made peace with the stuff. She's never really come to own the lessons.
I have.
You have, exactly. Exactly. Now you've just got to chill and say, hey, it's time for me to enjoy being me.
Okay.
In other words,
I
right,
yeah.
you're not an unfinished product. You are finished, right?
Well, I don't know that I'm finished, but
We're never going to be finished in that
right.
sense. So at some point, we've got to say, I'm enough. And that means I'm finished. So I don't have to stress my learning. Now my learning is not a matter of need and necessity and force like it was in those times where I needed to learn and there was an urgency to learn. Now my learning is a joy and I can learn at my own time, in my own leisure and the way I wish to learn because I've come through all of that and I've learned to deal with that shit already. So I've come through where the situations where I was forced to learn quickly in a hurry and there was a pressure on it. Now learning is my joy. It's a different learning. Yeah,
Yeah. I did. Yeah. That's a realization I've never had before.
that's huge.
That's it. That is huge. Because I did associate
Right,
that learning with,
right,
you
right.
know,
I mean, that's where I'm keen to get with you, where we enjoy the learning with each other, the way Illuminia and Biala does, or Ursula and Biala, or any of them, where they love the learning and it's a joy. It's not like I'm stressing to figure stuff out. You know what I mean? That's the learning from when you were in your youth, in your past.
right,
That was necessary then. It's no longer necessary. Different circumstances. It was appropriate then doesn't mean it's always appropriate, right?
right. Yeah, you have to be
That's very
aware to
profound
shift
right
it.
there.
Right,
Just because it was appropriate then doesn't mean it's always appropriate. Yeah.
right,
We get
right.
stuck in that, especially when it's like life or death survival. We assume that this becomes an absolute necessity always. It's built into our brain, but it's not so. Was appropriate then, it's no longer appropriate.
Yeah.
Also, the other parts of the lessons were cueing and confirmation bias, right? So what happened with your daughter Amanda? So it's interesting that there's Amanda in the story too, and then my sister's also called Amanda. Uh she actually changed her name to Amanda. But anyway, so what happened with Amanda and the whole incest thing? Did it turn out to be something legit or not?
Well, what ended up happening was, as I said, her behavior dramatically changed. I brought her to the counselors at school and such. And then I addressed it with my husband at the time. He denied it, of course. He said, no, that didn't happen. And
Right.
I just dropped it. And then it came back up where her behaviors were very similar to your story. They're
Gotcha.
just, yeah, the second she could get out of the house and drinking and cutting and all that.
Right, right.
So, yeah. So, um, the behaviors came back up again, and it wasn't until we got here, well, right before we got here, I questioned and I asked Brian about it, and then I had that psychotic break because that kind of was what broke me. because all the stuff about my past, the movie, came up pretty quickly. There was just so much. And then that came up about her. And for me, if there's one area that would have like shaken me to my core, it would have been about my kids. So it was, my higher self knew that. So we, right after I got out of the hospital, well, my sister and my husband put me in there. They both did. And so then I came here, and when I got here, that's when my mom told me her story, which kind of confirmed my suspicions before I got here. And I didn't discuss it with my mom.
Wow.
I didn't discuss it with anybody but the psychiatrist.
Right.
So when she said that, I was in a position of, why in the world would my mom ever say something like that if it weren't true?
Yeah.
And that was huge. That was a huge thing for her to say to me.
Right. What did your mom say exactly? Sorry.
She said that she suspected that there was something inappropriate going on between my husband at the time and Amanda, because when she came to visit, she saw Amanda and her dad, and they were laying inappropriately on the couch. She didn't see specific things or anything specific or details. And then she said she heard Amanda say, "Oh, I think Graham is up." That was her complete story.
Right. But here's the point. It's not for Amanda to be deciding what's appropriate. It's for Brian to be deciding. And he knows what is appropriate or not. So if there is even an appearance of impropriety, that's something amiss. I mean, either it's him being unaware and kind of completely in a bubble, which sometimes happens, or he knows what's going on. And, they can't help themselves. They're involved in their shit and they just don't think, which... So that's enough, in other words, to say something inappropriate is going on. Just because you don't see it, the fact that they are doing something which appears to be inappropriate is enough to say, "Hey, Brian, what the fuck, man?" Yeah, see what I mean?
Right.
So your suspicions are legitimate because you saw the same thing, it sounds like, yeah?
I didn't. I don't recall ever seeing anything. It was just more of watching a show on Oprah, and that particular family, it ended up being the dad. So it brought to my attention, could she have had that? Could she be going through the same situation?
Right.
And it was so dark and ugly that my little mind, that was just overwhelming to me.
No, fair enough. And so, but you saw the symptoms in Amanda, a change of behavior, stressing, acting out, cutting herself, drinking, running away, all that shit. Right. So that shit doesn't just come from nowhere. There's something. So what was the end result of it when after you came back from the hospital? And
after
you spoke to your mother.
The hospital, I got thrown in a car with my sister and my husband, and we came here, and I lived with my sister, and then I moved in with my mom, and then she said what she did, and then we went through counseling, blah blah blah. And there was only one counselor that ever said, based on Amanda's symptoms and her behaviors, there's a high probability. No, there is a high possibility that it could have happened, but she has not spoken a word about it.
Yeah.
And I talked to Amanda and asked her flat out, and she said no. So.
Right. Now, this was obviously a while back, right? I mean, like a couple of decades back.
2003.
All right. Things have progressed a little bit from then. And even then, at that time, those counselors are a little bit behind the times. The abusers, the abused, they always protect the abuser. Children especially. Always. because if they don't, that's the threat and stress. That's the thing that messes them up. Because if they expose them, they know that something horrible is going to happen to them, or this is what they've been told and to believe. Also, that if they speak up, then they're going to be breaking a promise of loyalty, and they're going to be opening up the secret which they promised to keep, and they're going to break that special bond, and all the shit manipulation tricks that get used. But the kids always protect the abuser. Every single time. So the fact that she doesn't speak about it, is quite significant.
Yeah. It was a challenging time in that I literally had a situation where I didn't know, and
Right.
I didn't have a way of getting to the truth.
Yeah.
And my mom was the one that kind of said what she did to confirm. And I just kept going back to, why would a mom say something like that if she didn't know? I mean, that was so.
Right. Exactly.
And literally, from that moment on, my whole world changed.
Excellent. Right. So all you needed was that confirmation, and this is the problem with abuse, and that same thing, like with what our whole book is about, the Out BS book, is that it's so unbelievable, it's so preposterous that it's difficult to believe, not just for us as individuals, but it's even more difficult for others to believe who aren't experiencing it. Every single abused woman will tell you that same thing. They will tell you that what they experience is impossible, and that this person is this monster at home, and yet when they're with everybody else, they're all nice and pleasant and wonderful. That extreme difference, it's starting to become, people are starting to become aware of it. Things are changing, and people are realizing, oh, you know what, there are people who go around with this incredible pretense and pretend to be everything's fine, and that they realize it's very difficult to actually kind of convince other people of the reality that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
Fun.
I had a situation that happened, and I won't go into too much. I'm sure you want to get off of here, but
No, I don't. You go into it as much detail as you want. Never is that an issue. Always go into details. Always.
Thank you. So right before the psychotic break, there was a situation where my sister and I were on a weekend together, weekend getaway. And in this story, my dad showed up, my brother showed up, and these two people from high school showed up. And we were in a parking lot, and my brother had this huge information that he found out, and it had to do with who my parents were.
Oh, wow.
And in the story, it ended up being that I can't remember, but I feel like at this point, I remember thinking my nephews were then my brother, actual brothers.
Oh, wow. So
that was,
there was some inappropriateness between your father and let's see, his wife's sisters.
no, my father and my sister.
Oh, no. Your father and your sister. So in other words, you thought that your sister's kids were also from your father. If they were your cousins, were your brothers.
No, I thought my sister may be my mom. She's 10 years older.
She's how many years older than you?
10.
Oh, 10. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's
Or
a little young, but
something.
it's possible.
It's possible.
But there was some weirdness involved, in other words. Not necessarily.
Yeah, some weirdness about who my parents were.
Yeah.
That's all I remember. And I remember thinking it changed who my nephews were in some way. So anyway, but what gets really weird is that in this movie, somebody shoots my brother.
Wow. Actually, literally, your brother died from a gunshot wound?
I don't know.
Oh,
yes, he did. But
Oh.
okay, so it gets weirder. So in that movie, I'm like leaning over him saying, "Oh my God, how could you do this?" And I don't know who did it. And I don't know if my brother died, and I have no memory of it. And until all this shit starts coming up way back when. So then my mom my brother takes off from the family, and he goes and he moves to California. And my mom calls me kind of out of the blue, and this kind of prompted some of this stuff coming up. And she tells me that even though Gary left the family, she has had contact with his wife secretly, and she keeps up on how he's doing, and she gets pictures of his kids sent and stuff. But my brother had nothing to do with us, with my sister, my mom, or I for years
Ah,
and
right,
years.
right.
Okay, so she says to me, I'm worried about him. Can you see if you can find him? I understand there's, ways that you can search. And so she engages me in this search, in this conversation. So I'm searching for him, and 2 days before I'm going to get results back from this search I'm doing, I get a call from, I'm actually at my mom's, and we get a call. I'm at my mom's, coincidentally, who lived quite a ways away, but I was there that weekend. It's Labor Day weekend. And we get a call from the sheriff's department saying my brother killed his wife and then killed himself with a gun.
Oh, wow. Wow. So this is for real. This,
This is
actually.
for real.
Okay. I mean, yes, the other
Okay,
stuff's for real too, but you're not always sure because it's in the movie. But this is something that you remember as being non-movie. Okay.
Right. This is non-movie. I get this call. So what's interesting about it, though, is my husband Brian and I go to Texas, and my husband acts so bizarre. It's not appropriate to the situation at all when we get there.
Yeah.
So we get there, my brother has 3 children, and those 3 children are whisked away by her family, and we're not able to see them.
By his wife's family.
Right.
Okay.
That died.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I haven't seen my brother in years. I'm in his house. He's killed his wife and killed himself. Brian is, I don't know, he's more concerned with looking through the house and just bizarre shit that didn't even make sense.
Yeah. You know what? Brian's a BMN. Yeah.
What's that?
He's a BMN, a bullshit manipulator narcissist.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
And for them, they don't have a conscience. They don't have morals. They don't have. It's all about them. In a situation like that, they don't want all the drama. It's like, oh, I gotta care about it, because they don't care about anything. All they're interested is, what can I get out of this? That was his function, his
He
focus
just
at the time.
he tried to take charge of it all. And
Yeah.
he like
it's in the book. Yep. Chaos profiteers. They in chaos. They love chaos because it's their chance to shine and be the man and take charge.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly how he was. And it was no compassion whatsoever that I lost my brother that I haven't seen in years or anything.
Right.
That was very typical. That was
God, I'm pleased you're not with him anymore. Yeah.
Oh my word. He was the epitome of that. And my mom was a narcissist too. But anyway, so so it ends up, it's the most bizarre story ever.
I'm listening. It's fascinating though. So keep going. It's very important. Donna, sorry. It's important to not skip the details.
All right. So we get back home, and I say to him, I would really like to talk about adopting his children. What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? I was really concerned about the 3 kids. So we started talking about this. Oh, he wanted nothing to do with that. Immediately. There was no conversation about that. No way. So it ended up being somehow her family hated us. We were like the enemy.
Wow.
So
interesting.
they didn't let us see the kids, talk to the kids. The kids were little. They were traumatized. I got all that. And I'm like, the last thing I want to do is traumatize those kids anymore.
Exactly.
I am here. Right. I would love an opportunity to have a relationship with them. I'm not a horrible monster like my brother may have told you. Who knows? Right. I don't know. I haven't talked to my brother. But I'm here if you if you need anything.
Right.
So then it comes out that the kids go through therapy, and the oldest daughter says that she was molested by my brother.
Yes, yes. Which is why I wanted nothing to do with you. Not because he and made you out to be the horrible enemy, because he can't have somebody who's good and who sees this kind of shit, because it's going to expose him. He can't
Yeah, I did.
associate with somebody that's good because it's going to expose him.
Hmm.
He has to make you
Yeah,
into the enemy.
it was the.
Does that make
So
sense? The logic?
yeah, I think
You have to
so.
learn to think like these horrible people. They don't think the way you do. They think in
No.
crazy ways.
Well, and it came out that he was a schizophrenic,
Right.
diagnosed as a schizophrenic. And it was just really weird because it was like parallel to what kind of was going on, what ended up going on in my life. So that happened in 98. And then
Right.
all this shit
Were
came
you
all about
were you diagnosed with
2003.
schizophrenia as well?
No,
No. Okay.
just a psychotic break.
Okay. Is
And
that
they
what they
said
call
it
it?
was
Just a psychotic break?
a psychotic break brought on by Ritalin.
Ah.
Ritalin-induced psychotic break because I was on Ritalin.
Ah, it's interesting. Yeah, to take any kind of medication, man, there are always ridiculous side effects. People forget that. All medication has side effects, and they never work the same on anybody. So we have to be very careful of medication.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Right.
So
Yeah, I told you this. I had a
anyway,
friend who took tranquilizers, and it made him all energized. It had the exact opposite effect on him.
wow.
Yeah. So we have to know this with medication. I mean, my father's a medical doctor, and he used to say the same thing, that all the drugs have side effects. Yeah.
Wow.
He's a total beer man too, and his
I don't
patients
do
used to
drugs
walk
at
out
all.
with an armful of drugs, because he said, I asked him once, how come so many drugs? He said, well, it's to counteract the side effects of all of them, and of course, it made him lots of money too. But anyway,
So the weird part is that when I started to remember from like 1998 to 2003, when all this stuff was coming up that had been repressed, and it was so dark and ugly and overwhelming, I would go to Brian because he at that point he was not in my awareness or consciousness that he was a part of it. Only my brother, my dad, other
yeah,
people.
yeah.
So I would start talking to him about stuff, and he would act really weird, and it like put a really strain on the relationship. And
Right.
then when I started to say and approach him about, could you have done this awful thing to your own daughter, it just like opened up this big can of worms. And then I remembered that situation with my sister, and it's kind of like that movie where the person goes to the people that did the awful things, not realizing that they're the ones that did them. Do you remember that movie? She goes and she tells the story, oh, I had this situation, but I'm not sure if it really happened, and this happened and that happened, and you shot this person, and isn't that a crazy dream? But it wasn't a dream. And then the
Wow.
people were like, holy shit, she's remembering.
Yeah. So the same thing happened to you. You started remembering, right?
So I started remembering, and so I told my sister and him at the same time, God, I just had this crazy dream about, remember, Terry, we were on that girls' weekend, and Gary came and he got shot, and it was the most bizarre dream. And I swear they both acted so weird. It was like, I felt like, oh God, what have I just
So
done?
so
Maybe it
so
isn't a dream.
so you think you were in with your brother when he shot his wife and himself? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Oh, oh.
when I was on a weekend with my sister, and
Huh?
my brother and my dad showed up at the parking lot of where we were. It was like in Destin or Orlando or something.
Hmm.
I feel like my brother got shot. I don't know who shot him.
Oh, but not shot to not necessarily killed. He just got shot.
I think he must have got shot
Hmm.
because he's still, but see, that's the whole thing. I never saw him. I didn't see the body
Right.
after he got shot in Texas. I didn't know his wife, so I never got a chance to see her. So there's a lot in my life that isn't known,
Hmm.
that isn't, it's all like, I heard from the police that he got shot. but I didn't see a body. I never saw
Right,
him.
right.
I didn't see her.
Right.
Did that situation really happen when I
I
was
got you.
with my
I got you.
sister?
I got you. My takeaway from this is, first of all, you were profoundly naive.
Oh yeah.
All right. So that's one profound soul lesson that you had to learn, right? To not be so naive, to understand and know that there are people that are these crazy, mixed up, messed up, horrible people. Yeah. That's a profound lesson. Yes.
Yes.
To acknowledge that reality. In other words, the BMNs and the book, the whole thing we wrote about, it's the same thing for Olivia. She also had no conception of such people. They never were part of her life. She never thought them to be even a possibility, right? Not that she's unsophisticated, but same thing. Her goodness didn't allow her to see that. Okay? So and that
Right.
affected her dramatically. And she was the same thing as you. She got enmeshed in stuff now. She didn't have a traumatic childhood. She had the opposite. She had a very happy childhood, very nice, positive childhood, really nice, loving parents who were kind of children themselves. But that also helped much to her naivety, right? So she was kind of in a bubble of wonderfulness, as it were. And then she got involved with the BMN, and that caused a lot of problems. All right. So, and that's what the book is all about. That she saw it coming, actually. Well, there's more to the story than that. And she saw it from the beginning, but it's kind of the universe, and she went to the anomaly of it and attunement. And anyway, so, but it's a longer story. But nonetheless, it led to the book and to the deeper awareness. And she wants to share that so people don't end up like in situations like with you and Brian, right? So that's the first thing that I'm saying, that profound naivety, that you no longer naive like that, right?
No, not at
Okay.
all.
And that's a huge soul lesson, right?
Huge.
That's profoundly huge. Plus, you didn't lose your positivity, your joy, your goodness.
Oh, I
Second
lost
one.
it for a while.
But now you don't have. Now you're still a good person, right?
Yes.
And your joy is still there. I see it.
Oh,
I see it come out. And
yeah.
Bina sees it. What is Bina? Bina's like, when she said the other day, when she thinks of you, she thinks of that bright light shining through your smile, right?
But then she said that she didn't know if it was real or not. So I don't know.
I never heard her say that.
Oh.
I absolutely never heard her say that. I'll be interested to, if you go through the tape and listen to hear if that's you thinking she might have said that, or if she actually did say that. I
Could
can't
be.
imagine. I can't imagine Bina saying something like that.
She didn't say those words directly,
Ah.
but it was something.
Oh, because
to
she
that effect,
absolutely
and I
meant
knew.
that if she said real, the only thing that I can remember more or less is saying that it's like a very real smile. That's the only thing that I could think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, more importantly, do I feel like I have it? Do I know
Yeah.
I do?
Yeah.
I do.
That's more important. Correct.
Yeah.
You do feel
Yeah.
like you have it, yes?
Oh, yes.
Yes, of course you have it. Yes, of course you have an abundance of life and enthusiasm, energy and eagerness. Fact proof, you would not be here doing this what we are doing and persist the way you are if this was not something that you had. A lust for life, a joy of life, a love of learning. You can only do what we're doing if that's part of your psychology and you're part
I
of your
see that
being,
now.
part of your soul.
Right.
Right.
I see that.
It's the same thing with Biella and all the aspirants. They have that same deep lust for life that manifests as learning and growing and discussing and interacting. But it's a joy of life, really, at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
You see it in
So I think
Ursula.
I think my takeaway is how I'm feeling about it. The day was full of realizations and confirmations
Yeah.
versus, just like people were bringing up things and I had to feel my way through. And instead of it looking at it like, oh, what am I not learning? When I really looked at how I felt, there was no more tears. There was
Brilliant.
gratitude
Brilliant.
for the lessons learned.
Right.
There
So
was an
so
awareness.
it's a day of appreciation.
Right. Well,
That's
it is
fantastic.
now. It wasn't 2 hours ago or 3 hours ago.
Perspective shifting. Perspective shifting. What is the date today?
I have no idea.
Ah.
I don't know.
August 16. The day,
16th?
yeah, it's a day of high voltage. Interesting. Just a little
Well,
side.
the woman that I met a person and we had lunch today, for example, and
Oh
she is
wow!
awake
Oh
and
wow!
aware.
That's exciting. That's very exciting. You met her today?
There's a woman that I met. This was part of the. This will sum everything up, and then we'll be done.
I'm
I
in
met
no
her a
hurry.
while
I don't want to
ago.
get done. I love this. You gotta
No,
change that
I
idea.
met her. I met her through an anomaly, and I really liked her. She seems very aware and awake.
Oh,
And
brilliant!
she was
Oh,
talking
brilliant!
about. She is a life counselor to help people who have had narcissists in their life. And when I
All right.
first met her, just like I asked you,
Uh-huh.
do you feel as though, remember me asking this, do you feel that I'm a narcissist? Because that word and all
Right.
these people
Right.
and all the conversations
Right.
was around that topic.
And what did I
she
say?
was no.
But why did I say it? No. I gave you a very definitive, logical, very obvious answer, which proved that you're not a narcissist.
Because I wouldn't be doing this work.
You wouldn't be asking that question. A
Right.
narcissist can't ask that question in the way that you ask it, with absolute sincerity and earnestness. They don't want to know because they don't want the answer, obviously, because they know it's going to be yes. So there's no way a narcissist could ask that question earnestly.
Well, I gotcha. And she said that too. And she had those life experiences. So that's what she specializes in. Helping women, especially that have gone through a life. And not, remember, I met Brian when I was 15 and we separated at 43. So that's a long time.
That is a long time. That is surprising. That's a very long time. Yeah, gosh.
It is. Yeah, it was off and on and off and on.
Yeah.
Anyway, but then I lost touch with her. And so then through the synchronicity and universe, there was this urge and something came up and I sent her a text and said, let's get together. I haven't seen you in almost a year. And let's just talk and catch up. And she was like, absolutely. And so
fantastic.
She told me about her story of reuniting with somebody, and their relationship is she's awake, she's interdependent, she needs her independence, she needs her space. He's very much kind of like how I used to be with relationships. Why, if you don't call for 2 days, how do you have a relationship? Because you're not calling and communicating.
Yeah.
He's very
a codependency, in other words, pretty much.
Yeah. And so that was her conversation. So that kind of brought up the whole thing about I was very much like that with Brian, very codependent and very unhealthy and all that. And I thought to myself, how can you coach other people if you're
That was my thought exactly. I was just about to say to her, hey, recommend her to the course, to the program, the Way of Impeccability program. No, I'm really serious. I'm very, very serious. Absolutely. I mean, it really sounds like she could use it. Right?
Right. She wants to help other people, and yet she was telling me this story.
That's exactly what you said to me when we started. When we first started, which has gone away now, you said, but I want to help other people. That was a big thing when we started.
It is.
And it's no longer an issue for you.
No.
Really, what that woman is saying is, I want help. The same way you were saying it.
Well, it was interesting because we talked and I told her about my relationship and I said it's unconventional and, you know, he lives right next door. I believe with every ounce of my being, the universe brought us together. There's been tremendous growth and expansion. We're interdependent. We do our own things. It's healthy.
Nice.
It's magical. It really is.
It's fantastic. So just enjoy. I apprate the magic of it. What?
I know.
Celebrate.
That's what this day was about.
Celebration.
Shifting it. Right.
It's a day of celebration. What was the date I said? The day of? Go back again, yeah. Ah,
These are
the
all
day of high
areas that I think
voltage. Yes, day of high
voltage.
voltage. In other words, power. Day of power, and
I
which
think
is
I've taken my power on these things, on these topics.
exactly. Today is all about claiming your power.
Nice.
It's about
I just
claiming.
knew I had to talk to you because I felt like you
I'm
were
so
the
pleased.
only.
Please, Donna, I've said this a zillion times before. What you did today, do it whenever that feeling comes. I don't care if it's every day. I love this. It's enjoyable for me. It's a pleasure. I learn so much. It's awesome. But it's important to do it when the pressure arises or the feeling. Later never comes, and to wait for the scheduled times, no. Forget about those. Those are for
Well,
other
here's the
people.
thing. I'm going to be honest with you about something. I'm just going to throw it out there. I
Well, how
saw
can you
on your
not be?
post. I know, right? So I saw on your post somebody said something about you're going to have to help me. What about the interviews or
Ah,
something?
right.
And
Oh, he
what
said
was
what
your
happened to them?
response?
Yeah. Did he kill the interviews? Because he was the last one I did that with. And there's nothing to do with you. No.
But what was your response?
I said, no, just stuff was coming on. Other stuff happened. And, it's just the way the
No,
universe works.
here's was your response, and I'll tell you how it hit me. Your response was, you've been working with people that are going through the course about impeccability, and that's taking up a lot of your time. And I
Right.
thought, shit, I'm taking up a lot of your
Yeah, but,
time.
but, but you take that as negative. I didn't mean it as a negative. It just is what it is. It's just the magic of it.
I love your perspective.
I had interviews scheduled with my friend Connie, who wrote the book, and she's the therapist and anxiety and all that, and they just never happened, and it had nothing to do with the course. It's just the universe. Like it just, she couldn't make it, and I couldn't make it, and then so it just stuff happened, and they'll come back again. I'm not too worried. To me, the course stuff is more important than that. Those interviews were. They didn't really matter much. They're not really necessary. I mean, the only reason I sort of did them was just, I guess, attunement. The universe said, come do this. And I did a couple kind of to see how it was. And okay, it puts me out there a little bitty. Kind of like advertising a bit, I suppose, in a roundabout way. I'm a bit bad at that when it comes to that aspect of it. Self-promotion doesn't come easily. So,
I don't
that,
feel
that
like
was
you need it. I mean, the universe
well,
takes
no,
care of things.
I know, but I need to pay the rent. I don't have the rent for next month, so it's just I need some business. So that was the idea, was to generate business, through the
I
group,
gotcha.
like that's what I'm saying, into promoting that way, just to make awareness. I don't know, it's a tricky problem, and I don't know the answer to it, and I just trust. And it's like, man, for the last couple of months, it's like, okay, some miracle happens every month, but how many miracles can you have? So things need to change, and they just have to have patience. But that's why, like when it strikes me, not because I'm looking for business, but like this friend of yours, I had the exact same thought. I said, man, yeah, you're looking to help women with this, but you're the one who really needs the help, and that's fine. You've got that desire to help those women. Fine, that's great. But if you are really going to help them, you need to get your own shit sorted out first. So that I just wait for opportunities like that's just an attunement thing. Like, yeah, something is coming. It's like, wow, duh, So
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I
you
thought
never
that
know,
same thing. So she
Fine,
was talking about narcissism and relationships, and I thought, it is. I switched it. I
fine,
mean,
fine.
I felt
People,
I felt
yeah.
like, oh God, not again. What am I missing? And then I just had this instant, nah, I need to go to somebody who has a different perspective. Who might that be?
I love
That
it. I
can
love it.
help me
Yes, that
understand this
yeah,
process.
it is my skill. If somebody asks me like, what can you do? What can I guarantee? I can guarantee you a different perspective. That's it. That
Yeah,
that
and
that I'm happy to
you
say.
don't try to it's not your perspective.
No.
You just help people process
Right.
and kind of look at it from different possibilities.
Exactly.
And then the obvious for them
Exactly.
comes out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm a facilitator. That's it. You know, I don't want to push anything on you. I'm not selling you anything. But how
No.
can I? You can't, if you're being impeccable, you cannot do that. I can't push my ideas on you. I don't know what the hell is right and good for you. I can tell you what seems obvious to me. I can share that, yes, and I can share perspectives. I don't know what the right one is. You do. So you have to, but often it is, we need that multiple choice to pick out that one. It's hard to come up with that perspective to create it. We don't always have the imagination for it, but we can recognize it when we see it amongst a bunch of choices, right?
Right.
Always. That's just the way things work. It's just amazing. So that's my job. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, the choices. Now you pick. Very simple. Very simple.
Yeah.
So on that thing too, what about Steve joining and doing the Way of Impeccability, the program?
I haven't talked to him about that
Okay.
yet, but I'm going to.
Okay.
Yeah,
No.
it's
Yeah. Let me say
interesting.
this: the fact that you haven't, you know, maybe you're a little cautious about it, and it's a
No, I
part
just
of
haven't
you.
seen him. I
Oh, I
haven't
see.
seen him where
Oh.
no. I haven't
Yeah.
really seen him much where we've had time to do that.
I got
Just
you.
life.
I got you. All right.
His
All right.
son from
Because
California's visiting, yada yada.
right,
So.
because this is something that it is important that it is okay with you. It's something that you want to do, that is
Oh yeah.
exciting for you to do. That you would love to share it with him. You know, because you know, look, we have a special. As far as I'm concerned, for me, it feels very special what we've got going on. And you know, you might feel like him coming would kind of be, it sort of would intrude on that somewhat. You know, that's up to you. That's what I'm trying to say. I understand
Yeah.
either way. You know, so you need to know, and also it doesn't have to be exclusive. You can come and join sometimes, other times not. You know, so it's never either or, right? It can always be a mixture of things. It can be one, the other. It can be all of them all together, right?
Yes.
It can
Yep.
vary and change. They're very important to understand. So this is a profound day, Donna. A very
It is a
profound day.
profound day.
A day of claiming your power, of celebrating Donna.
Yep.
Donna's
It
come
is.
of age. It is true, isn't it?
Woohoo!
It's true. Look at the
Yeah.
joy. It's true, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is true.
I mean, that's real. Hey, is that the dog?
Yeah, that's the dog.
So the
She's
dog
so
has come
funny.
back to visit you again?
Yeah, we shared the dog.
Right. But I
It's
mean,
like
you said the dog wasn't
co-parent.
coming around for a while, but now he's come back
Oh
again?
yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you see, all
I've
things in
gotten
time.
over that. See, I had to separate myself from him and
Right.
the child and the
And
dog.
and dependencies.
Right.
Right. You were feeling a little dependent when it came to the dog.
Yeah.
And then you realized that, hey, I can be fine without the dog or with the dog, either way. And then the dog came back. Lesson learned.
Right.
Very simple.
I can. That's how I am with him. I can be
Right.
fine with him. I can be fine without him.
And that is so profound.
Yeah.
That's
It
a
is so
power. That's a
profound.
power. That's something that you need to celebrate and claim and own and really say, wow, that's fantastic that I'm in this spot. You ask and you speak to that woman, for instance, and all other women that are anybody with a relationship, man, they would tell you, I would love to be in that spot. That's like the holy grail where you can take it or leave it and be happy either way. You get the best of both worlds. They suffer, they struggle, they're dependent. They have to have the man. When they're not there, then look at what Stephanie said too. You know, she always wanted the man, but all she found there was sex. Same thing. She has this dependency. She believes her happiness is connected to a man.
Yeah,
And
I don't at
that's a
all.
very deep soul lesson. And that's something that's kind of programmed into DNA, I believe, you know, that through the ages that, you know, men have pushed this idea and women also have bought into this idea that they need a man to be fulfilled.
Right.
And it's absolute shit and bullshit, man. You know, that's why I said coming of age. You acquired your independence of being today. You're not connected to the past. That's one profound. Write that down for please. Let's make notes of this. This is very important. This is a very big deal.
Okay. I got my paper. I've been taking notes.
Right. But you're not connected to the past. The past is not you. right? It's no longer you. It was there. You're not connected to it anymore. You're in a new life, in a new space. You are now Power Donna, the spirit warrior aspirant, right?
Yep.
That you're on your spiritual path, truly. You're not in the path of unlearning and the path of forced awareness, right? Now you get to choose.
Yeah, I was in
You
unlearning for a
needed to
long
learn
time.
things
You're right.
before.
I'm not.
Right. You
What's that?
needed to learn things. You no longer need to learn stuff. Now you want to learn stuff. Big difference.
Right. Right.
Right? I mean, you needed to overcome your naivety, for instance.
Right.
That you needed that. So you had to, because that's not something you can choose. You don't know you're naive, so you can't choose it. So it has to come at you. There's no other way to
Right.
learn to overcome naivety except in circumstances like that. Correct?
Correct.
I mean, if you so that's it can't be helped. It's just the way it is, right? So that also is a way to understand your past, that it was necessary. You chose it because it was necessary. Your soul knows that, hey, I'm naive and I need to learn this, so it puts you in that situation that forces it. Very profound.
Yep.
All right. So the other thing is today you claimed your power.
Yep.
And
I did.
and you also you came to be aware that you are for real. Your goodness, your love,
Huge.
your joy. Oh, that's beyond huge. It's beyond huge. It is beyond huge. To get to that position where we know we are real. Oh my goodness. That's like the Holy Grail. That's something that, people struggle with, and it's like they think it's impossible to get to that point, pretty much, Okay. The other profound realization is that there's no necessity to hurry up and learn.
Right.
You have time now because you are enough and you are also more and you also want more. But you don't have to have that more right now because you're enough. So if the more comes, it comes. If it doesn't come, it's fine too. You can take it or leave it, same as you can in a relationship.
Right.
You don't have to have more. There's no pressure to learn. It's a joy. It's a choice.
Right.
That's a big lesson from today.
That's a big shift.
Right. Also, other huge thing is that we can know without knowing. In the same way as you saw the signs and symptoms, but you didn't see the actuality, that doesn't mean you didn't know. It got confirmed with your mother, even though your mother didn't necessarily see anything either, but just that outside perspective helped you to consolidate and say, I did actually know. But we have to realize now that we don't have to know things definitively to know. We can know by inference and by implication. We don't
If you
necessarily
have,
have to know what exactly is wrong, but we can know something is wrong. Obviously, something was wrong with Amanda. Right. So, and if you didn't have that naivety, you would have clearly seen it was Brian. Because if you look in retrospect now, if you play the movie through, it's like, well, duh, it was fucking him. Right? Now, whatever he was doing, he might have been doing all sorts of weird shit. Who knows? But he was doing something inappropriate. What precisely? Doesn't matter. He was doing something. He may have been using Amanda, for instance, not necessarily having sex with her himself, but passing off to his friends like your father did. Or your brother did. You see what I'm saying? Same
right.
shit, so who knows what the hell, for argument's sake. Or he may simply have had a, I don't know, kind of like praise him and worship him and shit like that, because that's what narcissists like to do. He may just have had her as kind of under control and domination as like a little slave, like Stephanie was saying. Her father just wanted a slave, So people do weird shit, The point is, it doesn't matter what precisely. It matters that there was something inappropriate going on. That's it. End of story. Right. So,
Let's say that something inappropriate was going on and the kids are still having a relationship with him. the thing that's been challenging too is to let go of that, because there's nothing I can do about it. They're of
Right.
age that they're going
Right.
to choose
Now
their relationship.
they have to make peace with that. That's their thing now. You know, it is what it is. If they can't overcome that and come to peace and terms, there's nothing you can do about it. And maybe that's part of their process. You can't say that the fact that they haven't learned means that they won't learn. Sometimes, look, it took you 30 years to learn with your husband.
Right.
So your soul don't care how long it is. So just keep the connection, keep it open, and share awareness, share your path, your journey. And if they hear you sharing your stuff, that might encourage them to share their stuff too. So, you know, just keep the faith, as it were. All right. So there's another profound point that I want to bring up in terms of learning today, and that's to trust without trusting. And to believe without believing, and to accept without accepting. It's not either or when it comes to trust. We can trust without trusting, which means we trust up to a point. We say, okay, I don't know if you're untrustworthy or not. I don't know if you're full of shit or not. I'm going to connect with you as if you are trustworthy, knowing that you might not be. So I'm only going to trust you so far, up until a particular point. That's it. So I'm trusting without trusting. I'm not going to commit to anything. I'm not going to get involved in anything because I can't be sure. And that's very important, to understand that it's not either or when it comes to trust. Typically naive, good people, it's either or for them.
Right. I used to be like that, but I'm not anymore.
Precisely. And that's what I'm saying. What we're doing is a recap of the lessons learned from today, right?
Right.
That trusting without trusting, you've come to realize
when
that it is a possibility.
Like, what? Say what? It didn't make sense.
But now it does. But now it does. Exactly.
Totally.
Exactly. And that's a term for your dictionary of power, trust without trusting. As is accept without accepting, and believe without believing. That's it. Like look, when it came to your first suspicions about your husband and your daughter, you had to believe without believing. It wasn't either or. That's what messed you up, was the fact that you insisted on either or, right?
Right.
And so you couldn't say for sure it was, so you defaulted to saying it wasn't for a while. But if you had that concept of believe without believing, oh, okay, well, no problem. I can't say for sure, but I have to believe because there is a something. There's not enough either way. I mean, in that middle space, to believe without believing, which means if there's enough to put you in that space, that means you kind of have to do something about it also. You can't just let it go, which you did for a while, let it go because you didn't have the proof, right?
Right.
Which also is not effective as a strategy, yes?
Right.
So come to the future, if you get to that point to say, hey, I can't say for sure, but I'm believing without believing because there's enough for me to believe without believing, to suspect without suspecting, without confirmation. So I have to do something. I have to make a point to say, hey, I don't care whether I'm wrong or not. I can't take a chance. So I'm going to either be sitting on my daughter's ass all the time and being like in eyesight with her and never sit like that. You become preemptive, in other words, right?
Right.
So I'm just saying, so another profound lesson from today is the necessity of strategy. You were very unstrategic in many things in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you look back now, you say, man, I needed strategy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very powerful. Very powerful. Very exciting. All right. So the other powerful thing from today also, other takeaway is that you can learn.
That I can learn?
Yeah.
I am. So obviously I can.
Right. I know. But a lot of people don't think that. They don't accept the fact that they can radically learn. Just something to be aware of. Yes, it's obvious. It's very obvious, but it's very powerful also to say, I can learn. All right. I not only I can learn, but I have learned. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you put those two together, what's the implication? I'm kind of teasing you a little bit here. What was your whole thing when we started? I got so many questions, this and that, and like all the stuff going on. I don't know, I'm not sure, and could it be this, could it be that? In other words, you were stressing about the fact that you're not learning. If you look back and say, oh, wait a minute, I can learn, I have learned. What's the third part of that? I can learn, I have learned, I will learn. Write the 3 down for me, please. I can learn, I have learned, I will learn, and can, have, and will are all caps.
Okay.
So stop stressing about shit you don't know about and just know that, hey, I have learned, I can learn, and I will learn. It'll come, no worries. Right?
Right.
There you
Just
go.
enjoy the journey.
Exactly. Just trust that it will come. Capital P, capital T, trust that, hey, I will learn, it's going to happen. Just let it come. Let it come. Let it come.
Wow.
Patience is a superpower. Write that down too, please.
Yeah, it is.
It is such a superpower. So we have to just trust that it's going to come. Sometimes it takes time, but trust that it will come. And you know it will because it has and it absolutely will again. There's no reason that you won't learn in the future, correct?
Correct.
Right. But there's somewhat, if you look back at the start of this, and you kind of see that there's sort of an implication in the way you were responding to things, that you had doubt about your learning. And it just makes no sense. You're telling me about all the stuff that you have learned, and yet you're doubting you're going to learn in the future. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, what the hell, Donna?
Smack her upside the head.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right?
Yeah, really.
So when you think of it that way, it's like, okay, I was being a nincompoop. I was indulging in the idea that I can't learn. Of course you're going to learn. Yes, we don't be sure of it, but we have to trust that we're going to learn. Right?
Right.
There you go. And then,
Excellent.
right. That's most excellent. Yeah.
I feel like going out and celebrating, but it's almost midnight.
Oh, midnight celebration. What the hell? Call up Steve and say, hey, Steve, booty call. Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, that wouldn't be beyond something I would do.
Why not? Why not?
know.
We can extend ourselves. We don't have to be who we thought we are. We can be what we can be more. We can always be more. Right. So, whatever, just enjoy. And also the other thing today that I take away from today, if you watch this and you watch through my eyes, you'll see self-love. You'll see, hey, you know what? I see Donna loving herself.
Yeah.
That's very huge, Donna. It's very huge. It's very huge.
It is huge.
Very huge. All right. So I'm very keen. I asked you to remind me next time we get together. I want to go over 2 specific lessons in the course, in the program, and I still want to do that. So you wrote it down.
There was 2. I did write them down. Those
Right.
2, and then we're done. We're done.
We're not going to be done. No.
We're done with the modules.
Well, maybe, but we'll never be done. I don't want to be done. We'll never be done.
Okay.
All right. So now I just want to go into the mood management specifically and attunement also. Right.
And
so
attunement.
very important, very important. So we touched on anomalies a little bit today. So the key with anomalies also, the other recap is that anomalies are to draw our attention. They are what is outside of probability or possibility. And their purpose is to draw our attention to something. And it
doesn't necessarily have to be, obviously, because
no, and it's always
what you're missing.
Exactly, and it's always it's symbolic. What they are is a symbolic representation of something. It's seldom very literal, and not only that, but it's always connected to what's going on inside you. So those questions that you had, that you wrote down, what were they again?
What questions?
You wrote them down right at the beginning of your notes. I asked you what was in your heart, what was on your soul, what was in your mind, and you had a whole bunch of stuff that you said, I wanted to know this, I wanted to know that, and I said, write them down.
Write them down. I wanted a methodology. There was repetition of topics. I want to appreciate myself and what I've learned.
And that's happened.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay.
And knowing my path.
And knowing your
Yeah.
path. Okay. So that going forward, the methodology, that's attunement, and also it is mood shifting. It connects together, right? But it's specifically more with attunement, and we'll get into that. That is the methodology, right? So the other thing too was about doubts, about knowing stuff, and you say, hey, you know what? It's just part of the deal that we're never going to know. We just have to make peace with that. That's it. End of story.
Gotcha.
And shift it from being a stressful thing to say, hey, you know what? There's more for me to discover and explore later. Fantastic.
How fun is that?
Exactly. How fun is that? Exactly. I can't, there's so many games. There's so much excitement. There's so much magic, so much more. I can't be too greedy because I'm going to get overwhelmed. I can't play all the games together. I can't take, I have to just kind of chill and to do it one little bit at a time, right?
Right.
Right. And here's the key. That's the key. The methodology is to understand that how to choose what to enjoy. That's precisely what attunement is all about.
Right.
That's we allow it to come to us as opposed to us chasing it. Because I don't know which one to pick, so I let it come to me. It's as simple
I'm
as that.
looking forward to.
That's the bottom line of attunement. That's the methodology. We might as well just answer it right now. Let it come to you as opposed to you chasing it. Because if you chase it, what happens when you chase things?
It goes further away.
Exactly. Exactly. It runs away from you. So you keep a lot of energy. And also, how do you know it's the right thing? You don't.
Right. I don't.
So, but when it comes to you, you have no choice but to deal with it. Hell, duh, then it's the right thing. It's very simple. It's very simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
How magic is that? You don't have to
That's
go around
very-
chasing things. The magic's going to come to you. That is the methodology. You do not decide. You just let it come to you, which means I'm not deciding. It's coming to me.
So it's more of literally showing up.
Being aware, being present, paying attention, noticing. All right, so let's think of this from a hunting point of view, a hunting analogy. Like we said, typically a traditional hunter, they go out into the field, they're looking for something. This is okay, and they run after it, and they chase it, and it runs away. Okay, now they're gonna find something else, and they spend all this effort chasing shit. Maybe they'll catch it eventually, and they shoot. Okay, they get, but there's a lot of effort. Whereas the spirit warrior goes out and it just sits down anywhere out there in the jungle, right? Just sits and waits. Sooner or later, everything's going to come by them and they can pick and choose, right? Sooner or later, something's going to come at them and they pretty much have to get, otherwise, well, yeah. It's like, duh, there's your opportunity. Universe is saying, well, you know what? The bloody rabbit jumped up in front of you. Whether you want to shoot it or not, you're hungry, you got to feed your kids. There you go, right? It becomes obvious, yeah? So it's not a matter of choice anymore. The universe provides it for you. So you don't have to stress about what to choose. Just let it come at you. Much more sensible, much more systematic, fantastic methodology, right? You stressing about
I
not
love-
knowing and turn not knowing into a positive rather than a negative. You don't want
Right.
to know because you know your knowing is limited, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, I
a
do know
hunter
that.
goes out and this hunter doesn't know what all is in the jungle. It only knows the few animals that it's aware of. Then that
Right.
becomes all that they can pick from. So it's a poor methodology. Whereas the one who says, I don't know what the hell's out there. I'm just going to sit and wait. Oh my goodness, I never knew about this fantastic creature. Wow, thank you very much, universe. So we open ourselves up to get more by not choosing deliberately ourselves, letting it come to us. That is attunement, and that's how we resolve the problem of being nincompoops perpetually. Right?
I see that. Right.
We don't choose. I never choose anything. I just let it come to me. That's it. How awesome is that?
It's very awesome.
Look
I
how we
know-
got together.
I know that, and I've
Look how we
known
got
that.
together. You know, it's
What's
just,
that?
I said that's how we came to know each other and have this magical friendship. It's just fantastic because of just attunement, letting things happen and things coming. You know, it's most magical, Donna. Most magical. It's a fantastic way of living. It requires
I'm looking
trust,
forward to that.
and it
Right.
requires trust. It requires patience. It requires integrity. It requires independence of being, and it requires self-centeredness, in terms of being centered in not in
I knew what you meant.
right, being centered within yourself, having your
Right.
underpinning secure and not doubting yourself, and trusting in the universe. Capital T, trust, very powerful. And being patient, being alert, being observant, and of course, being impeccable. That's it. Life is easy,
So
man.
simple.
It is. It is. It is simple. It really is. It is simple. It is simple. But it's only simple when we come to that awareness, and we have to choose it deliberately for ourselves. So we start off with default complexity of cockeyedness, so that it
Right.
forces us to choose the simplicity for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if we
I
don't
can
choose it,
see that.
because if we don't choose it for ourselves, by ourselves, it's not real and it's not our own. So the universe
Right.
sets up this magical system where you start off with a flawed cockeyedness, which forces you to choose the sensibility for yourself. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
That's magical. Makes sense of everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, Donna, you better go and sleep or go to your booty call or whatever. Enjoy. So it's a very important what you did, though. Something was really pressing on you and you connected. And look how magical it is. Because pertinence and relevance, Donna. Pertinence and relevance.
Mm.
Look how magical our conversation was, because it connected to that pressure inside you. So everything is pertinent and relevant. And there was profound change that happened as a result, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're in a different space now to when we started, right?
Oh, totally.
Life is easy. Living might be hard, but life is easy.
That's
At least
true.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well,
It
thank
really
you.
is. Oh,
Yeah,
what a
it is.
pleasure. What a pleasure. What magic. Truly, I mean, is this anything less than magic, Donna?
No, it
No.
really was pretty magical.
So the other thing too is in terms of a methodology, and we'll talk about this next time. So added to those three things, mood management, attunement,
Mm.
and as part of attunement, force of circumstance.
Yeah, I don't really feel that one.
No, but you did earlier today when you reached out to me in Facebook chat and you said,
Oh,
"Hey,
is
I
that
want to
what
chat
that
to you."
meant?
Was that not as a consequence of force of circumstance? Your
Okay.
circumstances were pressing on you. Said, I got to figure this out. This is like, I need to resolve this. This is like, there's a force on me. That was force of circumstance. Yes?
Ah, okay.
All the anomalies today, they all kept piling up, kept piling up. Those are all force of circumstance, which led to our conversation, which led to resolution.
Ah,
You didn't have to think about it. There wasn't really a choice involved. It was kind of obvious what to do, right?
it was, yeah.
So force of circumstance, it basically just kind of like shepherded you into the like a maze. You know what I mean? It's just you just followed the maze. There you go. You didn't really choose. It was the only way to go. Force of circumstance. It's very magical. It's a methodology. So we'll talk about it again next time. But that's
Ooh,
very
I look
profound.
forward to that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Very exciting. Very exciting. I mean, we kind of said it all, but we'll just recap on it. I love recaps. I love recaps. Never get enough of them.
I do too.
I love it.
That's so
I love
funny.
it because I want to lock it in, man. It's like,
Right.
man, if you just touch on it once, it's like, okay, that was fantastic, but then where the hell is it? It's kind of it just comes and goes,
Exactly.
right? Right. And we got to listen to Eska's story, which I really enjoy Eska's story. I don't know. I love Clara's class. All the stories, I just love them. They just, I don't know, they touch me. You want to hear some of the other stories. Now, this one is not the happiest of stories, but the other kids have stories too. They're just awesome. I just love them anyway. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
I did enjoy it.
All right, brilliant. So we'll share some
my
more
heart.
at some point. We'll listen to some more when appropriate. So they're like Biella. But when you're done with Biella, we'll move on to Clara. I need to write more on them actually, all of them. So that'll come
But
to
I'm
time.
almost done with Biella.
Good.
I think I'm on the last chapter.
Ah, brilliant. On Boynell's story. Yeah, there's two chapters
Yes.
with Boynell. Yeah. So again, Boynell, that's actual conversation also.
It's so weird that I can relate to like all the characters.
Yeah.
I literally can relate to every one of them.
Yeah, I know, it's just magical. And I love that you relate to them. I just love it, and that puts you in a whole different space. Not better or worse, just different. Because, I like I told you, I had this writer friend who's no longer a friend to me because she got so traumatized with Biella. But where am I in the story? She couldn't relate at all. She felt completely like they're out of her league and that they made her feel like crap by comparison. It was really sad.
Hmm.
It's really sad.
Well, there was attunement, mood management. What was the third thing? I forgot
Force
already.
of circumstance.
No, there was another one too. Mood management. Oh, maybe not.
No,
Okay.
it was force of circumstance. Mood
And it
management.
was under attunement.
Yeah, that was force of circumstance is under attunement. It's part of the
I
same.
gotcha.
Right.
I just wrote it down wrong. And the other thing that came up, and maybe we can talk about that with attunement that happened today, was people making comments about connecting, but let's see, how did they put it? Connecting, but but then disconnecting, or connecting, but not really connecting. That's been another theme.
Is that are they recommending this or like as in detachment?
No, it came up in a conversation about like my boss is one he's a nice person and he connects, but he doesn't connect deeply with people.
Yeah. Well, that's just because they can't.
The concept of Rain Man.
Right. Your boss is essentially somewhat shallow. Not just shallow, but he's also a hypocrite. Not by intention, not deliberately, but inadvertently. Because he knows the stuff that he's about and he believes it's fragile. It only works if he doesn't go too deep. If he goes deep, there's contradictions and flaws and problems, and he doesn't want to go deep because then his whole world is going to implode. So he's forced to just exist on that surface level and keep that system that he's got going, and that's his life. And he's kind of okay there, and he's happy there, and it works for him, and fine. But it's not something that actually is completely resolved, and he knows it. He's just found balance. That's all. Right?
Yeah, that's another concept. I gotcha.
Right,
that's
because
come up a lot.
Right,
The Rain Man and autism.
Right, because he loses out by default to a large extent. That's the system that he came into. He's accepted it. He's made it work for him. He's found balance, but he knows it's a flawed system. So how did Rain Man and autism come into this?
I don't know, other than
it was just a theme of the day, you mean?
Yeah, it was part of the theme of the day and the theme that's been going on for quite a while. Just my feeling with the autistic children is that they have like this divine connection, and that they're more divinely connected than a lot of people in society. And we label them as having something wrong, and I think they're magical and glorious.
There you go.
So,
okay, did I tell you the R.D. Lang story?
No, think so.
Oh, R.D. Lang. Okay, so
she's a singer?
No. This is a psychologist.
Oh, okay.
No. There's another. She's not R.D. Lang. She's Katie Lang.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's R.D. Lang, and it's a very small, little, thin book, and it's got two books inside one, and they called The Politics of Experience and The Birds of Paradise.
Oh, you did tell me about
I did tell you about this. Where he studied schizophrenics, and he came to the conclusion that they were pioneers of awareness, of exploring human consciousness, that they were profound and they were awesome. But the key takeaway is the way they related to their own difference of psychology depended on the cueing that they received from their environment. Those who grew up in negative and were told, oh, you're the devil, believed that they were cursed and it was very traumatic, and they would try to kill themselves and cut their brains out, all sorts of shit. And the ones who thought that they were told, wow, this is like you, who grew up with somebody, wow, like you got a divine gift. They saw it as a divine gift. So it's about cueing, in other words, the autism. That's probably the connection. It's about cueing. How you see them and how they relate to themselves is a product of cueing.
Yeah,
also,
I'm seeing cueing as something I'd like to talk further about too.
Add it to the list. We won't make it the list for next time. We'll just make it as a general list. You see, you wanted to say, oh, and then we're done. Yeah, like hell we're done. There's lots to talk about. So cueing, cueing is very important. Also with Rain Man, I love to use Rain Man as an example of people's misunderstanding between intelligence and ignorance.
Okay.
right? They all say, oh, you know what? Like, he's so intelligent, he knows a lot of stuff. Well, Rain Man knows a lot of stuff too. He would have been a champ, like on Jeopardy. They say, wow, he's so intelligent. Look how much he knows. But just because you know a lot of shit don't make you intelligent. Rain Man knew everything. He would have been fantastic on Jeopardy, right?
Right.
He would have been like the Jeopardy champion, but he's not intelligent in the normal sense of the word.
Yeah. And
Right?
that doesn't, like in the beginning of the night, I felt like people were saying that I was like socially inept and Rain Man. That's how my old self-talk.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that. Whoever thinks that, that's just you thinking that. I don't think anybody thinks that.
Well, I don't even think that anymore. But in
Right.
like when we first started, when those
No. So you have to understand
themes
that,
came up.
right. So can you imagine me in social situations?
Yeah.
Would I
can.
be?
Why?
Well, okay, but I mean, would I be kind of normal and typical?
No, probably not.
Okay, that's my point. That's the point I want to make. Right. So just because we aren't the same in social situations as the usual, that doesn't make us inept, right? Like you said, oh, I can imagine you. In other words, by implication, that you can imagine me as not inept in social situations, correct?
Right.
But at the same token, I'm not going to be usual either. Yeah?
No, you're going to be more of an observer. I just picture you as an observer and a little more quiet and not
Exactly.
one to just
Yes.
chit
Yes.
chat.
Right. Exactly. Now, why can't that be Donna? Or some
Well, that is
variation.
me.
Do you see my point here? I'm making the point that simply because you are not the usual in social situations doesn't make you inept. It just makes you different.
Right.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Write that down.
Yeah,
It's very,
no,
very
I'm
powerful.
here.
It's a very powerful point.
Yeah.
Being different does not make you inept. And that's the lesson with Rain Man. That despite all of his crap, he basically kind of made his way in the world and he fitted in despite his ineptness. Yeah?
Yeah, he did.
There you go.
I
Wasn't that
gotcha.
right? So we can be Rain Man we're not quite as extreme as Rain Man. We can kind of balance Rain Man and his handler, his friend, right? We can kind of
Right.
merge the two. And so we can be very different and we can also not be inept at the same time.
I like that. That's what I've been thinking a lot about. So that's where
Right.
Rain Man came.
Because you and
Thank
I,
you for that.
we are Rain Men, or we are kind of autistic in some way. It's a variation of it, not quite that extreme, but we're different. That's it. We just have to acknowledge it. But just because we're different does not mean we have to be inept. We could be, but it doesn't mean we have to be.
All right. I got a dog to take out. So
Brilliant. All right.
Again soon.
All right. Bye-bye, Donna.
Brilliant
Good night.
night. It was a brilliant night.
Magical,
I'm going to
magical.
steal your word. It was brilliant, magical.
Yes,
After
brilliant
all.
and magical. Yes, and just perfect
Thank you.
timing. Somebody just came on Skype that I had an earlier conversation with that we're gonna.
Nice.
So perfect timings, exactly
All
right.
right.
All right.
Good.
Bye bye. Good night,
Bye.
Donna. Sleep
Good
well.
night.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
End meeting
too.
for all. Yeah. End meeting for all.